Seojun looks like your average teen with a backpack, but don't let the schoolboy fit fool you. He can solo an entire dungeon. This zone is crawling with massive orcs that would make most hunters quit, yet Dojin ends their leader with one savage strike. Straight up channeling his inner Saitama, he dodges their desperate swings and crushes those monsters like pathetic bugs. He loots a glowing high-tier monostone from the corpse, a rare find that'll boost his stats even further. Smirking at the haul, Dojin tosses the prize into his bag to head out, but suddenly the guild owners of this dungeon block his path. They're fuming that some rando cleared their turf. Outnumbering him and flexing their high-ranker status, they're feeling pretty cocky. They think bagging a high school kid will be easy work. Talk about a fatal mistake. As they lunge forward with handcuffs, Dojin decides to show them a fraction of his true terror. Even as they swarm him with tasers, their attacks don't leave a scratch. He mops the floor with them like they're toddlers. The pros lay there broken, unable to comprehend the monster standing before them. After taking out the trash, Dojin simply strolls out of the gate, as if he just finished a light afternoon jog. So why is this kid so cracked? Turns out he's a survivor from a world ravaged by nightmares far deadlier than these orcs. Otherworldly horrors invaded his home, plunging everything into darkness. Humanity fought a losing war until their very last breath. Among those legends was our protagonist Carcelian Levendian, a warrior who matched the monster's cruelty with his own sheer will. Decades of relentless slaughter followed, as he carved through mountains of beast flesh, with nothing but his trusted blade. Completely fearless, the day finally arrived for his ultimate showdown against a nightmare-fueled powerhouse. That monster was a literal tank making for a blood-soaked struggle, but Carcelian eventually put the beast in the ground. The victory cost him his life, but his journey didn't end in the grave. As his soul drifted through a cosmic void, he crossed paths with a human soul from a distant world called Earth, a boy named Seo Dojin, who was fading fast and had one final desperate plea for the legendary warrior Van Dyne. Van Dyne shut him down instantly. After centuries of war, the man just wanted to embrace the eternal silence of death. He was over it. He'd lost his kingdom, his family, and died a miserable death in the dirt. He was done playing hero. But young Dojin wasn't asking for his own life. He was begging for his family's safety and future happiness. Something about the kid's resolve touched Van Dyne's cold heart. Seeing the warrior finally listen, the boy beamed with hope. He gathered his remaining strength to ask for his family's peace, and Carcelian officially accepted the contract. To fulfill that vow, he awakens on Earth, now inhabiting the body of the teenage Seo Dojin. Our protagonist sets his sights on Namsoon Gate, a C-rank zone strictly reserved for officially licensed heroes. The security system keeps screaming for an ID scan, an authorization card that he obviously doesn't possess. He chooses the direct approach, smashing through the reinforced barriers and triggering every high-alert alarm in the building. Inside the gate, he wanders the halls looking for things to slay until he bumps into a squad of legit heroes. These licensed pros are authorized to be here, and they immediately assume this kid is just some lost civilian. They offer to escort him out as they retreat, but Dojin just stands there, radiating an unsettling cold energy. The pros sense the danger. This kid is rocking casual street clothes, looking nothing like a trained combatant. Porters might dress down occasionally, but this kid's fit is way too basic for a dangerous dungeon crawl. And that backpack, they figure he's just some pathetic porter who got ditched by his previous squad. Yet something feels wrong. Dojin finally breaks the silence, recognizing the blatant skepticism in their eyes. He bluntly informs them he entered solo, without a party. Hearing this, one of the heroes just sighs in frustration. He thinks he's seen this before, another wannabe hero chasing a death wish for some glory. People watch a few flashy hero ads and think they're invincible, but that reckless ego is a one-way ticket to the afterlife. You can't just storm gates without proper paperwork. You need a license and official certification to survive these zones. It takes months of grueling tests and training. Besides, a C-rank gate will eat a rookie alive. If you're just starting out, go practice in an F-rank hole before you end up as monster bait here. After enduring the guy's unsolicited advice and constant yapping, Dojin sets the record straight. He doesn't need their help or their opinions. The squad is stunned by the kid's ice-cold attitude and disrespect. Since they were actually trying to be nice, they're getting heated, but the leader tells them to back off. If the kid wants to die alone, then fine, let him walk his own path to the grave. The captain is certain this rookie will learn the hard way why ignoring wisdom is a fatal mistake. He hopes the kid realizes these dungeons aren't some glamorized hero flick, they are literal death traps. Like a scene from a nightmare, Dojin finally runs into a massive troll hungry for human flesh. The beast swings, but Dojin vanishes. His speed is absolutely insane. Before the troll can even blink, Dojin winds up a strike with pure, concentrated power. One punch literally vaporizes the monster's head. Talk about some serious One-Punch Man energy right here. With the monster deleted, it is finally time for the best part, looting that sweet, sweet treasure. He snatches the beast's blade and carves right into the carcass to find the prize. He pulls out a shimmering magic stone, though it is just a low-tier gem. Past life Dojin wouldn't even glance at this trash, but being broke means he cannot be picky. Suddenly, a pack of monsters swarms him seeking revenge. Dojin just flicks the gemstone like a bullet. Clean through a monster's skull, the other two idiots rush him like they are begging to die. Dojin is happy to oblige. While he is cleaning house, we check back in with the hero squad. They are still trekking through the dungeon, but their minds are totally stuck on that mysterious kid. The orange-haired girl is low-key panicking, convinced the guy is already monster food. But the leader plays it cool. He figures the gate's security will sweep him up eventually. The cleanup crews are always B-rank elites, and since this is just a C-rank gate, there is zero chance the kid dies unless he does something monumentally stupid. The bald guy totally agrees, laughing off the concern as they move along. He is picturing the arrogant brat crying in a corner, praying for someone to save his life. Too bad the reality is the exact opposite. Dojin is the one turning these monsters into punching bags. A single blow is all it takes. He is moving so fast the beasts cannot even graze him. He teleports behind another loser and delivers a skull-shattering kick that ends the fight instantly. With the area cleared, he starts harvesting those magic stones like he is playing a video game. Once his bag is stuffed to the brim, he is finally ready to head out. Honestly, the grind was mid. These low-grade stones feel like nothing but heavy dead weight. Right then, one of the enforcement agents spots him and alerts the rest of the unit. Dojin barely turns around before these guys in suits start giving him the major side-eye. They demand his hero license. If he is an illegal entrant, he is going straight to headquarters. Dojin's silence makes the lead agent turn ice cold, demanding total cooperation right now. They keep yapping about proper procedure, while Dojin just looks completely done with their nonsense. This forced drama is totally killing his vibe. Since talking is useless, he just turns his back. The suits threaten to cuff him, claiming force is authorized for uncooperative civilians. One impatient guy grabs Dojin's arm, warning him about the pain he is about to feel. He claims any injuries will be Dojin's own fault, so he should just comply quietly. Bad move. Dojin is officially tired of all the yapping. He grips the agent's hand back, warning him to stop being an annoying pest in his way. The intensity in his voice sends a wave of pure terror straight down the agent's spine. The other two draw their magic batons, grade 4 staves meant for taking down orcs. They might be dangerous to monsters, but against our guy, they are practically toys. He twists the agent's wrist until he is whimpering like a baby and drops one final warning. They better vanish now if they want to keep what little pride they have left. The agents go for it, swinging their staves, but Dojin is moving like a ghost. He lands a brutal blow to one guy's spine and follows up with a gut punch to the next. Now only the guy in glasses is left standing, and he can feel the cold sweat dripping. Dojin flickers like a glitch, dissolving into nothingness. The thug's heart stops. Men aren't supposed to just vanish. A savage phantom strike buries itself into the man's core. He wheezes, clutching his stomach as he stumbles back. Fed up with the relentless hound-like agents, Dojin finally considers a change. Maybe it's time to officially join the heroes. The agent promises peace. Stay clean, stay legal, and the government's shadows will stop haunting your every move. Dojin drops a curveball. What about rifts? The agent freezes. To understand the tension, we need to know the world's rules. Chaotic portals scar the planet, leaking nightmarish beasts from another dimension into our reality. They're everywhere. Within those monster carcasses lie magic stones, the ultimate high-stakes fuel that everyone is dying to possess. The state grips these portals with an iron fist. Authorized entrances for heroes are officially labeled as gates. But the wild, untamed tiers in space, those are rifts. And our protagonist is absolutely sick of the red tape. Government suits shadow his every step, barking trespasser the moment he breathes near a gate. It's beyond exhausting. The shaking agent clarifies illegal entry triggers an instant alert to the main control center. Strike teams deploy in seconds, but Dojin has his sights set on a rift, which is a whole different beast. Gates are child's play compared to rifts. Breach one of those and the law will crush you without mercy. Zero warnings. No negotiations. Bored of the lecture, Dojin palps the guy's face with a terrifying grip. He tosses him like literal garbage. The agent finally realizes he's facing a monster. This is way above his pay grade. Dojin shoots a final icy look at the pathetic agent crumpled on the ground. He's pure fodder. With a snapped arm, the man still barks empty threats about prison and justice. Vowing revenge, he watches Dojin walk away. We shift to the sprawling Guro Digital Complex in Seoul. This monolith is the Hero Complex, the beating heart of the magic stone black market and official trade. Business is booming. Amidst the chaos, Dojin weaves through the crowd toward a specialized stone merchant. Inside, a brain-rotted clerk is glued to his phone, mindlessly scrolling through endless social media loops. The moment Dojin mentions business, the clerk transforms into a sleazy salesman, hyping up his shop's reputation. He boasts they offer the fattest payouts in the district, acting like he's doing Dojin a favor. Best in the nation, he chirps. Dojin kills the vibe by slamming blood-soaked low-grade gems onto the pristine counter. The owner's face contorts in pure disgust. He looks like he just bit into a lemon. The gore is everywhere. Greed wins. He swallows his disgust and begins the appraisal process. Offering a courtesy brew, the shopkeep gets to work. Soon Dojin is chilling with a cup of joe. The merchant meticulously scrubs away the monster grime before crunching the numbers for the final payout. The haul, 12 low-grade, 16 medium, and 5 high-tier gems. A decent payday or so it seems. After a massive 40% cut, Dojin is left with roughly 5.5 million won. That commission rate is daylight robbery. Dojin isn't feeling the generosity of this scammer. He did the dirty work and risked his life. Why should this desk jockey take half the loot? The owner smirks, claiming 40% is a steal compared to the 45% charged elsewhere. He plays hardball, telling Dojin to walk if he doesn't like the deal. Total bluff. You won't find better, he lies. But Dojin isn't some naive rookie falling for cheap tricks. He begins packing his gems, calling the bluff. Panicked, the shopkeep lunges to grab Dojin's arm. Now he wants fees for the appraisal and the free coffee. 40,000 won just for looking. He even charges for the luxury towel ruined by the monster blood. The audacity is off the charts. The bill hits 350,000 won. Dojin's expression remains stone cold. He's not paying a single cent. Desperate, the merchant drops the act and resorts to low-tier intimidation tactics. He whistles for his class muscle. On cue, 3 hulking thugs burst through the back entrance. Who are we crushing today, they growl, flexing their power as they surround our hero. Dojin's eyes sharpen into lethal blades. The merchant tries to hold the gaze, trembling inside. Flash forward, the cocky merchant is now a trembling, sweaty mess. The tables have turned. He thought he was the boss, but Dojin just served him a brutal reality check. Radiating absolute main character energy, Dojin casually strolls up to the counter without breaking a sweat. He cold-bloodedly slashes the commission to a mere 1%. Nobody dares to argue when Dojin sets terms. That soul-piercing gaze of his seals the deal instantly. Dojin exits the building, pocketing a massive mountain of cash. It is the literal spoils of war, earned through his lethal fists. His family is left in total awe. Staring at the fortune, Grandma worries it is all counterfeit. But Dojin shuts down her doubts before they start. He claims the cash is a massive return from a friend's startup. Grandma is not exactly buying the story. She wonders if he even has friends, so he doubles down, calling it an old childhood connection. She finally drops the interrogation for now. Beside them, Dojin's sister is practically beaming with pride. To her, he is the hero who saved them from poverty. He gives her a gentle pat, promising hope. He paints a picture of the luxury life coming their way. Watching her celebrate their newfound wealth hits different. Dojin realizes he is finally fulfilling a sacred vow. The echoes of a dying wish resonate in his mind. The original soul's final plea was simple: protect his grandmother and little half-sister at all costs. He wanted Yoon Young to be safe. That poor soul vanished before Dojin could even offer a response. Awakening in Seo Dojin's skin, his path became clear. This family's survival is now his absolute priority. Comfort isn't enough. He needs a fortress. 110 billion won sanctuary in the heart of Korea is the goal. Cash is easy once his god-tier powers return. This reality feels eerily familiar to his destroyed homeworld. It is like a mirror of his old world minus the apocalypse. Here the dimensional rifts are significantly tamer. The local monsters are literal jokes compared to the horrors he once faced. To a legend like him, the former sword god, this world is just a low-level sandbox. He is currently operating on autopilot. He is barely using 10% of his true might. Suddenly, a knock shatters the peace someone wants Dojin. He heads to the door unfazed. Waiting outside are 2 bottom-tier thugs looking for a fight. They are demanding 48 million won in debts. It is obvious these low-life loan sharks want a payday. The original Dojin took a small 5 million won loan before passing. Now, the vultures have come to collect. That money saved Grandma, but predatory interest has bloated the debt 10 times over in no time. They have tracked his gate earnings and want their cut. They wave the contract around like it actually matters. Their only repayment is a bone-shattering right hook to the leader's face. He goes airborne instantly. The other thug freezes in pure terror. Dojin's lethal glare reminds them that 9 million is already paid. By his calculations, these leeches actually owe him interest now. The tables have officially turned. He delivers another soul-crushing blow, leaving the thugs sobbing. He has a message for their boss. Tell him I am coming to see him soon. Cut to a vibrant, bustling shopping mall. Yoon Young's eyes sparkle like diamonds as they enter a toy store. It is officially Spoil Little Sister Day. The sky is the limit for her today. Back in his old life, soft was not in his vocabulary, but the original host's memories are thawing his cold heart. Seeing her happy actually feels incredible. The bond they share transcends blood. He is determined to be the guardian she truly deserves. He showers her with every ounce of affection he has. Finally, she spots the perfect companion. It is a tiny, humble bunny plush. Even now, she is trying not to be a burden on him. Dojin isn't having it, and grabs the biggest one in the store. Today, modesty is strictly banned. Price tags do not exist today. Afterward, they head off to enjoy a high-end feast together. Mid-meal, a shrill voice cuts through the air. A middle-aged woman approaches with an arrogant sneer. She is flanked by a security detail and looks ready to start some high society drama. She mocks his peasant clothes before turning her venomous gaze toward the girl sitting next to him. She implies Young is an accident, hurling insults about his mother in the process. Rage flickers in Dojin's eyes, while the confused little girl just watches this stranger's outburst. She doesn't understand the hate. Then the woman coldly demands to know the little girl's name. "I am Lee Young," she chirps, making the trashy woman realize exactly who she is dealing with. This toxic lady starts trashing her outfit, calling her a total disaster. She's even disrespecting her late mother now. Every insult is pushing our lead to the edge, yet somehow he keeps his absolute cool. He refuses to bite the bait. Even the stepmother is stunned by Dojin's icy, unshakable poker face. Seeing her traps fail, the entitled brat decides to escalate her disgusting behavior even further. She actually insults a child's innocence. That's it. Dojin finally snaps, calling her the hideous creature she is. A literal orc in human skin. The woman freezes her brain, short-circuiting from the savage, unexpected verbal clapback. Time for a flashback to see why Dojin has been putting up with this trash for so long. Born an outcast, Dojin survived a life of struggle until his mother passed away when he was 7. He crawled back to his father's estate only to be treated like a ghost by his new family. Things turned lethal once the true heir was born, leaving Dojin completely abandoned in the shadows. Eventually, they threw him out like trash, forcing him to seek shelter with his only other sibling. At Grandma's house, our lead feels a sharp pang of pity for the Dojin of the past. A kid who masked his agony with a fake smile, pretending the world wasn't constantly crushing his soul. But those days are over. This orc is his stepsister, the reason he initially tried to show some restraint. The patience has run dry. He remembers the nightmare of living under the same roof as this monster. She's still a repulsive mess. Her personality is as rotten as her face is hideous. Absolute bottom-tier behavior. She's brainless too. Dojin obliterates her ego, exposing her deep-seated inferiority complex for the whole world to see. She projects her own self-hatred onto everyone else, desperately calling others ugly to feel better. A shallow gold digger obsessed with appearances, that's the ugly truth he exposes, while systematically dismantling her pride. The entire mall is glued to the drama. The orc woman is fuming her temper, ready to explode. Suddenly, the stepmother arrives. The brat immediately runs to her side, playing the victim like a total coward. She whimpers about being verbally destroyed, but the mother is clearly disgusted by her daughter's pathetic display. A single icy stare silences her. Honestly, this stepmother is terrifyingly elegant. I thought the orc was the mom. The elegant woman shifts her gaze to Dojin, greeting him with a fake, graceful smile and a home invitation, pretending she wants to bond. Dojin sees right through the mask. He knows her kindness is pure poison. This woman was the architect of his 12 years of hell. She's the root of all his past suffering. She keeps digging up traumatic memories, triggering his dark past. Dojin's eyes turn cold. He's in full beast mode. With a voice colder than the grave, he tells her to vanish. That's a lethal strike to her pride. Humiliated by someone so much younger, she spins around and retreats desperately, clinging to her shattered dignity. She never expected such a savage comeback. Is this really the same weak boy she used to bully? The boy who would bow, even when slapped for nothing. Her annoying daughter scampers after her like a dog. The bodyguards trail behind them, acting like expensive, useless statues throughout the entire confrontation. Absolute NPCs. Back to our MC. Those two toxic harpies completely killed the vibe of his day out. Time to move on. That savage reaction wasn't an accident. He had a very specific message to send. The spineless Dojin of the past is dead. It's time this trash family learns who's really in charge now. Cut to a luxury Mercedes speeding away. Inside, the villainous mother and daughter are fuming. The brat is raging, wondering why her mother didn't just crush Dojin right then and there. While she screams curses about their public humiliation, the mother coldly demands an explanation from her manager. Why is Dojin still breathing? The manager is clueless. This survival doesn't match their accident reports at all. She screams in a blind rage. How could that brat possibly still be alive after what they did? They were supposed to finish the job. The terrified manager promises to hunt down the truth immediately. This time he won't fail. Meanwhile, the clueless daughter has no idea about the dark plot unfolding. Talk of murder sends chills down her spine. Suddenly, the mother pivots, asking her daughter a very strange question. Does she actually have feelings for Dojin? The girl freezes her face, turning a bright, guilty red. She's actually terrified of the fallout. If Grandpa finds out about a murder, their entire lives are over. The mother roughly clinches her daughter's jaw, hissing at her to stay out of her business. She is dead set on ending Dojin's life, fueled by his audacity to talk back. 10 years ago, the world plunged into chaos as the rift unleashed a monster-infested dimension. Horrors spilled from the portal, driven by a singular bloodthirsty goal, human extinction. The unrelenting onslaught reduced metropolises to rubble, leaving the planet scarred and broken. Amidst the darkness, beacons of hope emerged, valiant warriors known as heroes. This era birthed mana stones harvested from monster carcasses. Now Dojin is on the move. These stones instantly rendered traditional power sources obsolete, becoming the world's new heartbeat. Faced with this shift, global powers pivoted their entire focus toward controlling the rifts. Nations fought for gate dominance, desperate to extract the resources fueling modern civilization. Today, every industrial gear turns on gate resources and the might of heroes. Consequently, being a hero is the most lucrative and prestigious career path available. Only true heroes secure the bag with consistent wealth. Meanwhile, Dojin reaches his destination. He stands before the Yongdangpo HCS capital establishment, a mouthful of a name right. You will see his motives soon enough as he casually strolls into the building. The boss and his lackeys are typical ugly-faced thugs trying to look intimidating. But Dojin remains ice cold. The boss kills his cigarette, sneering at our boy's nerve. He cannot believe Dojin trashed his goons, then had the balls to show up here. Dojin clearly gives zero F-words, calmly addressing the organization's leader. He claims that he is actually the one suffering a major loss here, total insanity to the boss. Demanding answers, the thug watches as Dojin clarifies exactly why he is there. He is here to collect compensation for his mental and physical trauma. Seeing this, the boss realizes the kid standing before him is fundamentally different. The soft-spoken boy from the past is gone, replaced by a fierce, steel-cold aura. Those hospitalized lackeys were the first warning sign that this kid had evolved. The boss suspects Seo Dojin underwent a unique awakening during his time in the gates. Still, the arrogant thug warns Dojin that his newfound confidence will be his grave. The hypocrite mocks our boy for being cocky blind to his own impending doom. To prove his point, he summons a wall of grumpy muscle to intimidate him. To a sword god, however, these hulking thugs are nothing more than pathetic insects. The boss keeps barking, claiming even high-tier heroes die like dogs in the dirt. In a hilarious twist of irony, the boss has made a fatal miscalculation about Dojin. He assumes Dojin is just some low-rank D-class trash his syndicate can easily crush. Meanwhile, Dojin just lounged on the sofa while 5 goons tried to stare him down. Without a hint of fear, he gives a chilling command: sit the hell back down. The boss is stunned by Dojin's disrespect, but our boy isn't done talking yet. One thug loses his mind and decides to test Dojin's patience with a challenge. Amused, Dojin slowly removes his glasses, signaling that playtime is officially over. He then delivers a nuclear-grade ballistic haymaker right into the guy's unsuspecting face. The impact sends him flying while his friends are left absolutely speechless. The violence is shared equally, as Dojin systematically begins dismantling the rest of the group. Even while trashing them, he maintains his composure calmly, exposing the boss's crimes. He lists every shady deal hidden beneath the organization's legitimate money-lending front. Dojin levels an orange-haired punk, while revealing his knowledge of their counterfeit ID racket. He effortlessly ducks the final strike, returning the favor with triple the lethal force. Just like that, he puts the whole squad to sleep with his signature bedtime routine. Works like a charm every single time. Dojin isn't finished. He demands a clean, bulletproof identity that won't trigger any red flags. The boss is absolutely shook. Dojin drops the hammer. He has exactly 24 hours to forge that new ID. Surprisingly, some thugs stayed back. Smart move for background characters. Usually these guys have the audacity to challenge a god, despite being level 1 scrubs. Predictably, the boss is spiraling desperately, trying to gauge Dojin's true power level. To him, this kid radiates B-rank energy at the bare minimum. He is so dazed by the revelation that Dojin has to snap him back to reality. He takes the gig instantly. Then, Dojin grips his shoulder tightly. His gaze turns icy, contrasting his calm tone. He demands the truth about Hong Hee-ju, his stepmother, and her hit order. Turns out she really did plot this during that shady chat with her daughter. The boss chokes on his words until Dojin crushes his shoulder with terrifying bone-snapping strength. The man shrieks in pure agony. Even his goons just stand there looking completely useless. Honestly, they need better haircuts anyway. The boss finally cracks and spills her twisted, heinous strategy. This toxic woman planned to drain every last cent from Dojin's bank account, crushing him with financial debt until he felt his only escape was to end his own life. Now that is the definition of pure evil, especially against your own son. Absolute coldest orders ever. Dojin listens, eventually tossing the sobbing man aside, wondering if that is why they trapped him in the gate. The boss suddenly acts like a terrified innocent saint who had zero involvement, even claiming he wouldn't get a dime if Dojin actually died inside. It is a solid alibi, and it definitely gets Dojin's gears turning. Then he whispers the name Kung Chul Wu the rat, who lured him into that gate. Now Dojin wants every scrap of intel on him by tomorrow. Demand set, he exits with a chilling politeness, leaving the room in stunned silence. After that talk, Dojin slips back into his own dark thoughts. The original Seojun only had one dream: to keep his little sister. and grandmother, safe at any cost. It is just another tragic layer in this kid's brutal life. He has endured enough, but it is time for a change because the sword god is locked in. Next day, boom. Our guy is officially registered with a very convenient B rank rating. No typical F rank underdog trope here for style points. He taps his card and the system clears him instantly. It is the real deal. But the system flags a warning: his rank is still too low for this suicide mission. This is low-key annoying to our boy, who regrets not forcing that guy to give him an even higher rank to avoid this red tape. Ignoring the system's spam of danger alerts, Dojin doesn't give a damn and dives in. Welcome to the Night Island Gate. It is a B-rank gate, but do not think for a second a B-rank hunter is safe here. For actual survival, you are usually expected to be at least one rank higher than the mission. The dungeon's massive scale makes solo hunting a total nightmare for anyone normal. Luckily, it is all tight tunnels, which actually plays perfectly into his solo playstyle. Standard protocol says an A-rank hero should be handling this beast, but the words risk and danger are not even in Dojin's vocabulary. Worst case scenario, he just fights a swarm of monsters in a claustrophobic hallway. Zero room to breathe. Dojin grins as a massive serpent with a cursed purple aura emerges. Anyone else would be terrified, but he sees it as a warm-up. Time to gear up those gauntlets. Plus, the snake brought friends. Their tongues are giving some serious xenomorph vibes. They lunge, but it is futile. Our boy is a straight-up meat grinder who harvests monastones like he is grocery shopping. Meet the black-killing vipers. This beast is infamous for its lethal paralyzing toxin. One graze, and it is game over. Dojin blurs into motion, striking with the velocity of a bullet and unleashing a full-power swing. He carves through the monster's hide, unleashing a crimson spray before bisecting the creature completely. Post-slaughter, Dojin inspects his gear, specifically the high-end gloves he just purchased. The poison never stood a chance. Those 300,001 credits were well spent. Back to the grind, he shifts his gaze toward 4 more grotesque, legless lizards. He obliterates their skulls with overwhelming speed, painting the floor in a shower of gore. With the vipers sent to the afterlife, Dojin begins scavenging through the remains for monastones. He digs through the monster's flesh, but to his dismay, there is not a single stone in sight. It is the harsh reality of this world. These mobs have a measly 3% drop rate. To score any real loot, he will have to slaughter at least hundreds more. Further in, he encounters a massive bonehead. Most would scream boss, and Dojin totally agrees. He jokingly asks the Titan if it is the big bad, expecting a friendly hiss in return. Honestly, he is just glad this tank showed up so he stops getting lost in the maze. He aims for a quick execution, but his finishing move barely leaves a scratch on the Titan. His fist hits like a feather against that hide. Mid-air and defenseless, he is wide open. A massive tail whip sends him crashing into the stone wall. Talk about a brutal reality check. This is the true power of a boss. It bears venomous fangs hissing with predatory malice. Like a hangry girlfriend, it lunges for a bite, but Dojin narrowly escapes its jaws. Riding the momentum of his dodge, he lunges back with a heavy-duty counterpunch. The impact echoes finally spiderwebbing that reinforced armored hide after his second assault. One thing is clear: this boss is built like a fortress with an unusually thick shell. Compared to those trash mobs, its defense is way beyond his current level. He cannot shatter it in one go. This setback forces him to rethink his entire strategy. If he had his original sword god peak power, this worm would be dust in seconds. Suddenly, his eyes lock onto a fallen warrior's discarded blade. It is time to show the world why they call him the sword god, and nothing else. He was not the god of fists for a reason. He grips the battered, rusted steel firmly. A weapon is only as legendary as the man wielding it, and he knows it. Blade in hand, he charges the behemoth. The serpent strikes back with primal fury. Exploding with sheer velocity, Dojin soars upward, telling the beast to feel honored. He is going all out with this junk sword, unleashing a whirlwind of lightning-fast slashes. In a heartbeat, the serpent is shredded. The epic struggle ends in a total stomp. As the boss expires, the worn blade crumbles into ash. Talk about cutting it close. With the king of the dungeon down, Dojin makes a total pro-gamer move. He harvests a massive fang, a rarity most protagonists usually overlook. This will make a killer dagger once refined, a fitting trophy for his troubles. He exits the gate into a starlit night. That rank B crawl took longer than expected. This narrow victory only fuels his hunger to reclaim his former glory. Plus, he is low-key glad his old comrades did not witness this pathetic display. That would have been pure cringe. Now it is time to cash in those stones. At the counter, another hero is busy flexing his mediocre haul of monastones. The shady receptionist treats him like dirt, demanding a flat 40% commission. Even a total rookie can see that rate is a straight-up scam, sparking instant doubt. The guy tries to protest, but the clerk insists their rates are the lowest in town. The center's 5% tax-free cut is pure highway robbery, but in this shady appraiser's eyes, it's just business. For high-rolling hunters, this was a golden ticket to liquid assets. The heavy stack of bills soon changed hands. Our hero didn't bat an eye at the fee, his only interest being the battered state of the clerk's face. Hilariously, even with his jaw practically broken, the clerk stuck to his practice script like a malfunctioning robot. He played it cool, claiming a total maniac decimated his security detail before leaving him as a souvenir. Our boy scoffed, mentally blaming the clerk for hiring bottom-tier fodder at a supposedly C-rank facility. In this world, a shiny rank medal means nothing if you lack the raw skill to back it up. Ranks are often just a facade, a hollow numbers game designed solely to keep the fragile system intact. The hero knows the truth. The gap between two hunters of the same rank can be a literal ocean. There's a massive difference between some lazy storefront sentry and a hunter who dances with death daily. One collects a paycheck for sitting pretty, while the other carves a living out of the carcasses of nightmares. Despite the veteran dropping some serious truth bombs, the clown behind the desk just wanted this yapper gone. He brushed it off, offering the little guy a lifeline should he ever find himself in over his head. As he made his exit, our protagonist walked past him, his gaze cold enough to freeze blood. The clerk's heart stopped as he recoiled frantically, pointing a trembling finger at the silent looming Dojin. He shrieked that this was the monster who dismantled him. The veteran hero paused, genuinely impressed. He sized up Dojin's coiled frame. Anyone who could flatten guards like that was a threat worth drawing steel. I'll give the guy credit, he wasn't some ego-driven hothead looking for a petty reason to flex. He saw Dojin as a typical bully, abusing his gifts. Little did he know he couldn't be more wrong. He was blinded by a one-sided narrative, but that's what makes these characters feel so gritty and grounded. The clerk smirked, banking on the fact this veteran had enough connections to erase Dojin's name. He was ready to unleash a political firestorm on our boy, completely oblivious to the monster he was provoking. Dojin simply turned his back, telling the boomer to get lost. The veteran's ego took an immediate hit. Suddenly, the optics shifted. To everyone watching, it looked like Dojin was the ultimate villain of the story. Dojin asked if he wanted revenge. The veteran's blood boiled, but his hard-earned discipline held his blade. Years in the field taught him that hunter-on-hunter violence was a zero-sum game ending in a body bag. Statistically, clashing with your own kind was far more lethal than facing the most bloodthirsty dungeon dwellers. Realizing the stakes, the pro stood down and walked away, leaving the clerk slack-jawed and utterly abandoned. Dojin turned his icy stare back to the sleazy appraiser, asking if he still had something to say. Before the man could reply, a heavy bag of glowing magic stones slammed onto the counter. These radiant beauties were top-tier loot, making the appraiser sweat as he questioned Dojin's true identity. The clerk's eyes bulged as the total hit a staggering 150 million, a fortune by any standard. To a normal person, it was a jackpot. To Dojin, it was barely a fair wage for one day. When he demanded the cash, the clerk nervously stuttered about the processing fees, praying he'd survive. Dojin's gaze sharpened, but he eased up once he remembered their exclusive 1% commission agreement. He ordered the clerk to finish the transfer. Internally, the appraiser was dreaming of punching Dojin. He fantasized about teaching this kid a lesson, but in reality he was far too terrified to move. Sweat dripping, the clerk explained that a payout this massive required a green light from the top brass. Dojin demanded instant action. The clerk frantically dialed his boss, whispering the terrifying details. Losing patience, Dojin snatched the device, barking a direct order to the boss to cough up the money. The boss folded instantly, only asking for the phone to be returned to his employee to finalize things. Dojin pulverized the phone against the wall. The employee trembled, paralyzed by pure, unadulterated terror. Staring at the wreckage, the clerk scrambled to count out the bills as Dojin loomed over him. Within minutes, a mountain of duffel bags, stuffed with cold hard cash, was prepped for our protagonist. The man was left a broken shell, utterly dominated by Dojin's presence. You almost have to feel bad. Don't forget, this guy is basically pocketing half the pay real heroes bleed for. Total trash. 10 minutes later, the boss storms in fuming because his employee went ghost. The funniest part, the receptionist just straight up rage quits right then and there. Then the boss spots the phone shattered against the wall. Yeah, he gets the picture. He immediately dials Juyan, demanding she get there as soon as possible. Turns out she's a major celeb. With her iconic violet hair, everyone instantly recognizes her. The crowd goes wild for Hyun Ju-yeon. They're treating her like royalty, and honestly, her outfit is pure drip. She glides in, absolutely flooring the receptionist with a killer smile and a casual greeting. Why the hype? Simple. She's officially the nation's 4th S-rank hero. Pure powerhouse energy. Insane, right? Rumors say she's the boss's niece, but what's a top-tier hero doing here? It's true. Ju-yeon confirms she's only here because her uncle called in a major favor. Her mission: deal with a loose cannon hero. The stylish S-ranker sits genuinely curious now. Time for the tea. Cut to our main man, looking absolutely shredded. He's meditating under the sun after a brutal day of non-stop hunting, but there's a catch. The loot was total trash. At this rate, his future is looking pretty mid. Step 1. Hit a level where he can solo S-rank gates. And that means he needs to grind to reclaim his former glory. Buckle up, it's officially training arc time. The problem, this world's mana density is pathetic compared to his old life. Even with peak effort, gathering enough mana will take 3 whole years minimum. That's just to get close to his old self. But wait, there is a silver lining. Better gear could help, but even basic equipment costs hundreds of millions. Major L. Total money sink. Suddenly his instincts scream. Someone or something deadly is close. He locks eyes on the horizon, grabs the kid and shouts for everyone to get inside now. He locks the place down as Grandma panics. Suddenly, the entire house begins to violently heave. Grandma's terrified it's an earthquake, while little Young is completely losing it. But our boy knows better. This isn't some natural disaster, it's something way worse. Dojin feels a jagged, violent energy. A rift just tore through reality, and guess what? It's literally sitting right on top of their roof. He orders his family to stay put. It's too dangerous for them. He charges diving headfirst into the rift's core. His sister and Grandma's desperate cries fade as we cut to the Soul Hero Association. Alarms blare. A rift just spontaneously manifested, right in the heart of the Mapo region. 63 days since the last one, the manager realizes the White Lion Guild is closest. He orders his team to alert the guild and every local hero. They need control fast. Then he sees the coordinates. The rift is hovering directly over a residential home. This is bad. If a civilian accidentally wanders inside that rift, it's a death sentence. Plus, the rift seals shut, locking everyone else out. If they die, a massive monster wave will erupt in 10 days, leveling everything. An unstoppable massacre would follow, putting all of Seoul's safety in the crosshairs. When in, word comes back that Seo Do-jin has already entered the fray. He lives there. His grandma confirms he jumped into the rift to save his family. But he's not a registered hero. This just became a total nightmare scenario. An ordinary guy coming back alive. Impossible. Despair washes over the entire association staff. They're helpless. Meanwhile, we find Dojin's stepmom, and boy is she absolutely livid. News of his awakening hits her like a slap. She can't believe it's actually happening. He isn't registered yet, but the association has officially confirmed he's the real deal. Learning her target awakened after the gate. Yeah, she's absolutely livid. Chul-woo failed his mission, and now the enemy is leagues stronger. Furious, she slams the desk, screaming why this guy refuses to die. Paying for a botched hit job is just fueling her explosive rage. After blasting her manager, she sends a lethal ultimatum to Chul-woo. Finish Dojin personally, or pay back 10 times the original contract fee. Suddenly, her assistant drops a bombshell. Contacting him might be unnecessary. A chaotic new rift has manifested right above Dojin's private home. He's already entered. To them, he's officially a dead man walking. Hiju beams, knowing no one survives a high-level rift alone. She chills out, ordering her team to monitor his inevitable demise. Meanwhile, Dojin lands inside the rift, a massive, ancient forest realm. It's Patiswa, the legendary sanctuary where he spent his youthful days. Every detail is a perfect recreation of his most sacred memories. The rich mana feels nostalgic as he reunites with the World Tree. This divine pillar radiates pure energy, holding the world's stability together. The old world collapsed the moment this sacred tree was burned. That event shattered mana flows, but here the tree stands tall. It's exactly as he remembers, a golden chance he can't ignore. He can finally reclaim his lost power by siphoning the tree's energy. Meditating in the divine glow, Dojin's strength begins to surge back. 3 days pass instantly. No food, no sleep, just pure, relentless cultivation. 10 days later, he's fully harmonized with the world's natural breath. On the 10th night, monsters arrive to shatter his peaceful meditation. These grotesque invaders are the Bolkina, and they've come to torch everything. They want a repeat of history, but our MC is standing guard. He won't let tragedy strike twice. The beasts screech and lunge. Dojin sighs, wishing he had a water blade to douse these pests. The flaming monsters roar, but Dojin is overflowing with massive mana. No sword needed, he is the weapon, and these hands are rated E. With one gesture, he unleashes a wave of authority, crushing them. The survivors freeze. Let's break down the absolute flex he pulled. That wasn't telekinesis, it was mana release, a devastating blaster-style strike. Using raw energy as a detonator, he's finally back in his element. His reserves are full now, and the Bolkina are in trouble. They retaliate with pulsing laser blasts, firing everything they've got. Unfazed, Dojin's sheer mana density creates an impenetrable, shimmering shield. Shrouded in blue light, he declares the World Tree is finally safe. Time to play. The monsters fire again, but he's way faster. Dojin muzzles them mid-blast, causing their own energy to explode internally. They crumble into dust, dropping magic stones and the eternal ember. The slaughter is total as he claims the legendary golden seed. Casually tossing the ember, he's giving off major Sukuna energy now. Usually farming the tree would be the ultimate meta strategy. But his vessel is capped, so he consumes the ember for fire mana. He ignites his body, surging with a sudden torrent of infernal energy. In his previous life, he couldn't care less about the eternal ember. But now, everything is changed. Devouring these embers is mandatory, though each one demands 10 grueling minutes of absolute focus. Luckily, he has a massive stash ready, and he intends to drain every single one. Outside, the rift has gone viral. News crews are swarming, Dujin's house like hungry vultures, while association agents keep the perimeter locked down. Bang Seong-ho is absolutely fuming, because some arrogant brat dared to jump into the rift early. Honestly, he looks exactly like Yoo Jin-ho from Solo Leveling but with a better barber. Then there is our MC, rocking the blue hair. This is Kim Hyun-woo, and he actually respects Dujin's desperate gamble. But Song-gu isn't buying it, labeling our boy a greedy amateur who ignored the risks. A normal death is one thing, but dying inside a rift turns the zone into a ticking mana bomb. If it blows, an endless tide of monsters will flood the city. Hyun-woo looks to Gilma for guidance, but Gilma just says to stick to the standard protocols. Hyun-woo is stressed about the rift epidemic, erupting across the globe from America and China to the United Kingdom and Turkey. Managing this worldwide chaos is pushing Gilma to the absolute breaking point. This level of disaster is rare, yet somehow other superpowers are handling their gates with ease. Meanwhile, Korea is spiraling into a total panic for one simple reason. One civilian's recklessness might trigger a national catastrophe. Seong-gu is ready to throw hands the moment the guy returns. As for that massive purple gate, 28 days have crawled by since it opened. That is 28 days Dujin has been trapped. The association is terrified, declaring a level 1 wave threat. Dujin's name is still top secret, so the media just calls him Citizen S. But while the public is clueless, a certain predatory loan shark has already connected the dots. His right-hand man, Kim Young-gu, confirms the intel for the big boss Hwang Chang-so. Chang-so is curious if Dojin will walk out in one piece. And yes, the one piece is real. Anyway, the assistant is betting against our boy's survival. He gives a regular human less than a 1% chance. But Chang-so just smirks. Calling Dujin ordinary is a joke. After all, that regular guy sent his toughest goons to the hospital for weeks. The world is sleeping on this man. They are vastly underestimating the most dangerous civilian alive. Now, Chang So-wei wonders about the awakened. His assistant admits it is a total toss-up, even for the pros. It all comes down to their rank, making it impossible to predict the outcome. Fighting monsters is one thing, but surviving the environment, that is a whole different beast. Rifts are chaotic nightmares that break even the strongest heroes. Regardless, some things never change. Chang-so is still a grade A scumbag. He plans to protect Dojin's family, but only to scavenge their assets if Dojin dies. He is a literal parasite, and if Dojin survives, he will slap him with a massive protection fee for the favor. This guy is a total leech. Cut to the breathtaking world tree glowing with ancient power. Our MC is in a mid-training arc, his veins coursing with molten flame mana. He has lost track of time while devouring hundreds of firestones. Now his mana is overflowing. He can bend fire to his absolute will, plus his body has adapted. He is now practically immune to the heat. Looking back at his previous life, he has already eclipsed his former self's fire mastery. This power is on another level. He leans against the world tree, feeling its ancient pulse. It has always been his silent guardian. Through every life, it has stood by him. Dujin is truly grateful for its loyalty. He wove sturdy vines into a custom satchel to secure every shimmering spirit stone he'd harvested. Dujin knew he might never witness the angel tree again, yet he prayed their paths would cross. If the divine tree ever fell into danger, he'd shield it with his very life without hesitation. I don't know about you guys, but this wholesome emotional beat honestly hits different for me. That night, Dojun finally stepped back into reality, emerging from the rift completely unscathed and whole. Luckily, the coast was clear. It seemed everyone had already written him off as a total goner. While the public panicked over a monster wave, Dujun sensed a massive powerhouse lurking nearby. Choosing to hunt, he blurred toward the energy source and happened upon those two familiar agents. One was fuming, while the other stayed chill. Hyun-woo and Song-gu just as he remembered. Their gear screamed Hero Association, and Dujun knew getting nabbed by them would be a total nightmare. To shake them off, he conjured a blazing fireball and launched it high into the night sky. The projectile tore through the building, erupting into a massive explosion the second it impacted the target. Both Hyun-woo and Seong-gu snapped into combat mode, instantly recognizing the flare of fire magic. They bolted toward the blast, only to find a crowd of civilians frozen in absolute terror. Seong-gu barked questions at the chaotic scene while our boy was low-key flexing his fire mastery. His pinpoint accuracy was cracked, reminding him of his legendary old comrade, a mage named Tusk. He wondered if that archmage would be hyped by his current flames. After all, Tusk was the GOAT. Known as the continent's most feared fire mage, they had shared a bond forged in literal hellfire. Hyun-woo's sharp instincts flared as he noticed the rift beginning to warp right before his eyes. The crack vanished into the thickening fog, sending both agents sprinting toward the scene to investigate. They couldn't believe the rift's link had just severed. while Dojun simply dipped toward his next goal. He cruised toward his destination without a single hitch, but by dawn, the news was absolutely exploding. Headlines announced that the month-long Mappo rift had officially vanished into thin air overnight. 29 days after Seo Dojun went in, the Hero Association's monster wave fears were officially debunked. Clueless about the sudden closure, the authorities launched a massive investigation to uncover the truth. They were also scrambling to explain the mysterious inferno that broke out exactly when the rift vanished. Since it happened at a junkyard, the general consensus was that Seo Dojun had finally bitten the dust. They assumed he blew himself up, unaware that the legend was hiding in plain sight. He lurked in the comments, watching people pour out fake sympathy for the fallen hero. The rift's closure actually stung our hero. He felt a hollow sense of despair deep inside. Though he could no longer guard the World Tree, he had a new mission to protect what remained. This shift in resolve brings us straight back to the Viper's Nest at HCS headquarters. Those clowns were busy popping bottles over Dojun's death, thinking the old lady was now easy prey. They planned to corner his sister next. Chung-so truly is the definition of a cold-blooded snake. One absolute trash human even suggested waiting for the little sister to mature for their sick schemes. As they spewed their vile plans without a care, a chillingly familiar voice sliced through the room. The scene cuts away there, showing us Chang Seo enjoying his life of luxury and greed. He was gloating over Dojun's confirmed death while his assistant ran through his daily itinerary. His schedule was wide open except for a power lunch, which honestly made the villain quite happy. He was already hyped to party at Madame Kang's club tonight, drowning in his own hollow arrogance. But as he stepped inside and hit the stairs, he found his elite guards tossed around like toys. Blood painted the walls, and the architect of this carnage was the man he thought was buried. Our boy slammed him into the floor, ordering that filth Chang Seo to crawl like a pathetic dog. That icy command left the CEO paralyzed with fear, as Dojun took his seat like a king. He repeated the demand to the brain-dead Chang Seo, who was reeling from the weight of his dominance. He's groveling on all fours like a stray. Cold as ice, Dojun commands him to bark, treating him like the animal he truly is. The order rings out clearly, leaving Changsu trembling in pure humiliation. It takes a painful moment before he finally lets out a bark. But our hero isn't even close to being satisfied. He's determined to personally strip away every last bit of this man's humanity. By forcing the president to bark for the world to hear, he's reduced to nothing, just like the victims he once trampled. Dojun sneers that trash like him only plays nice to your face before sharpening a knife for your back. Seizing the moment to drop his true name, he delivers a chilling ultimatum to the broken man. He's dealt with plenty of low lives before, all of them crying and begging for a mercy they don't deserve. Changsu vows to be a loyal hound, but Dojun's had enough. He delivers a bone-shattering slap across the man's jaw. The sheer impact knocks the breath from his lungs, sending a spray of crimson across the floor. The assistant watches in horror until Dojun calls his name, appointing him as the company's brand new boss. Then he gives him a piece of advice: quit wasting your life working under a pathetic snake like this. Knowing these vultures are experts at betrayal, he gives the assistant full permission to finish Changsu off. It's a heavy burden for a loyal subordinate. He bows and protests, citing the leader's massive web of connections. He warns that taking the throne instead of Changsu will only trigger a total disaster for everyone involved. The assistant begs for mercy on the boss's behalf, but Dojun isn't interested in empty talk anymore. He suggests a more permanent solution: stuff Changsu into a barrel and erase every trace of his existence, then sink him into the bottomless ocean. After all, that's exactly the kind of dirty work these guys excel at. Since the henchmen are hesitant to move, our MC switches tactics, aiming a lethal threat at the entire group. If they refuse his order, he'll toss them all into the gate as snacks for the monsters lurking inside. Just the mention of the gate turns Changsu into a whimpering mess. He collapses desperately, pleading for his life. He swears absolute loyalty to Dojun from here on out. This actually gives our hero a moment of pause. He could end Changsu right now and solve his issues, but something in him has shifted in this second life. Admitting he's grown softer than his old merciless self, Dojun decides to offer the man a hand. I bet Changsu is ready to become a saint after this, praying to every god he knows for survival. He just needs to stay on Dojun's good side. He takes the hero's hand, swearing to serve without question. But hold on, why is Dojun's grip suddenly glowing with a terrifying white-hot heat? Dojun might be softer, but he's still savage. He glares at the scumbag, reminding him this is his final warning. Without missing a beat, Dojun rips the man's hand clean off, leaving behind nothing but charred remains. Ignoring the president's agonizing screams, he turns to walk away, leaving one last chilling message. If any of them ever threaten his family again, Dojun will personally ensure their lives reach a violent end. As for their new gig, they're now the lifelong bodyguards for his family. That's how you handle traitors. Officially, the man named Seo Dojun was a mere casualty who vanished when the rift closed. In reality, he's just chilling at a local McDonald's, enjoying a quiet meal. The Hero Association and the media moved on instantly, treating him like yesterday's forgotten news. To them, a civilian entering a rift is a dead man. Even if he reappeared, no one would buy his story. Besides, revealing he cleared a solo rift would just bring unwanted drama. As for that broken dog Chang-Su, he's busy hunting for a luxury house so Dojin can finally move and live a life of leisure. Dojin treats his sister to some fast food while sharing the news about their upcoming move. She's overjoyed. Soon she'll be in kindergarten like other kids with elementary school right around the corner. But the mention of school makes little Yoon-young's smile vanish. Instantly, Dojin is on high alert. He can slay monsters with ease, but a crying child, that's not in his arsenal. Then his sister makes a confession. She tells him how the other kids bully her for being an orphan. Hearing this completely shatters Dojin's heart. If she hates those mean kids, she never has to go back. Those little brats are in for a reality check. Realizing she doesn't have to face her bullies anymore, Eun-young is absolutely hyped for the future. Dojin is already plotting to send her to an elite private school where no one will ever look down on her again. Under the cover of night, Dojin tracked down the hideout where Yeongu had stashed his family. They'd been hidden in a corporate motel while he battled the rift's shadows. The man practically groveled for forgiveness, claiming the company-owned building offered maximum security against outside threats. Exhausted from the hunt, Dojin ignored the corporate puppets and headed straight for his loved ones. Stepping inside, little Yoon-young nearly tackled him while his grandmother stood there, her heart clearly overflowing. Tears blurred the old woman's vision as she gripped his hands, thanking the heavens he survived. The battle-scarred soldier froze his icy exterior, finally melting under the pure, unconditional warmth of his family. Later, they feasted at Whack-Donald's, Yoon-young's absolute favorite spot for a legendary fast food binge. She grilled him about his hero life, but surprisingly admitted she wasn't a fan of his career. Being a hero is flashy, sure, but it means dancing with death against literal nightmares daily. She didn't want a legend. She just wanted her big brother home safe and sound forever. After a lifetime of slaughter, the sensation of someone actually fearing for his life felt completely alien. He was once the final survivor of a dying world, a lone wolf amidst monsters. He'd witnessed the end of all things. Now gifted this miracle, he finally had something worth protecting. These long-buried emotions were surging back, anchoring him to this new vibrant reality in unexpected ways. Perhaps a peaceful existence wasn't just a dream, but a future he could actually reach and hold. Meanwhile, absolute chaos gripped the Hero Association as Nate Huang, their legendary founder, reached his breaking point. The bizarre disappearance of the recent rift had the high-ranking director spiraling into a state of stress. Their elite investigators turned up nothing, leaving the founder fuming over the lack of control. A rift that vanishes without a trace is a ticking time bomb that could detonate at any moment. His aide nervously agreed, voicing the fear that they were flying blind against unknown variables. A full-blown wave would have been easier to handle than this haunting, unpredictable silence beneath the surface. Huang silenced her, focusing on the small mercy that no innocent blood had been spilled this time. As a top-tier global icon, Nate Huang wasn't just powerful. He was a symbol of absolute strength. His influence was so massive he could seize the presidency or crush trillion-dollar empires with a word. Yet he turned his back on political games and corporate greed, choosing a much more noble path. His singular obsession was the pulse of the people, protecting every life under his watch at any cost. He was the real deal, demanding a relentless, scorched-earth investigation of the rift's perimeter immediately. The association was already aggressively moving to acquire all surrounding properties to secure the danger zone. Huang insisted on paying a premium, ensuring the displaced residents were compensated far beyond the market standard. It was a small gesture of atonement for the chaos the association had allowed to disrupt lives. Intelligence reports confirmed a global surge. Multiple rifts were tearing through reality across the entire planet. While world powers like the United States and China locked down their zones, others weren't lucky. The United Kingdom, however, was staring down a total catastrophe that their defenses simply couldn't handle. While other regions deployed legends, the UK's defense squad was a pathetic joke, completely outclassed by threats. After a month of struggle, their pathetic defense lines finally shattered, leading to a humiliating total defeat. The nightmare wave had officially hit London, yet the unsuspecting citizens remained blissfully unaware of approaching doom. Hidden in the mundane crowd, Seo Dojin moved like a ghost. Blending into the crowd, our protagonist heads straight for his go-to spot in the hero complex. As he steps inside, the cashier starts a routine greeting, but immediately chokes back his words in terror. Every hair on his body stands on end seeing the black-haired youth. Luckily, the manager is actually in. He won't have to face this nightmare customer alone. Sensing the vibe, the manager slams his newspaper shut, his eyes narrow with suppressed fury. He recognizes the punk who has been bullying his spineless cashier, forcing them to buy trash-tier crystals. Dojin just smirks lazily, dropping his heavy backpack onto the floor. Having the boss around is actually better. It means this deal will move way faster. Mr. Manager, he begins. The boss expects more low-grade junk to spill out, having zero interest in such petty, small-time trades. Dojin is not a fan of being dismissed when he is offering a fair deal, but any sane shop owner cannot survive on a measly 1% fee. He wants him gone, but Dojin warns him that refusing will be a massive mistake he will regret forever. The manager just keeps shooing him away like a nuisance. He does not even glance at the bag. This is the final warning before things get ugly. In response, Dojin kicks the bag open, sending its contents clattering across the tiles. As veteran crystal traders, both men instantly recognize the energy radiating from those stones. That cheap bag was stuffed with heroes, magic crystals, legendary artifacts that money cannot even buy. Dojin already knows the score. He knows he is holding top-tier premium loot. You see, these heroes' magic crystals are the real deal. An infamous kingpin named Korsaman once used them for experimental drug manufacturing. Then one night, a lab explosion changed his life and the entire world's view of these stones forever. The hero's magic crystal triggered Korsaman's awakening as a god-tier hero. Now they are the ultimate prize for awakening and mana boosting. This ultra-rare energy source is the definition of high-end luxury. In a total power move, Dojin tells the stunned losers to pack it back up as he prepares to walk. Mr. Manager instantly flips his arrogant attitude to total brown-nosing. He practically begs the youth to sit in the VIP lounge. He offers refreshments while the cashier frantically polishes the gems. Dojin loves how the tables have turned. One minute he is trash, the next he is sipping iced drinks like royalty. His first demand? Full market price, with a tiny 0.5% commission. The moment the manager hesitates, Dojin threatens to walk. Previously, he agreed to 1%. Now he is slashing that rate just to be petty because they annoyed him. Desperate, the manager bows low, squeezing out the most pathetic, sincere apology he can possibly manage. Dojin is done with empty words. It is his way or the highway. Take the deal or he leaves. Simple as that. Behind the counter, the cashier is silently fuming, calling Dojin every name in the book. Realizing his fake tears will not get him a bigger cut, the manager gets serious and finally locks in. He starts yapping about market fluctuations and pricing. Dojin has zero patience for this long-winded lecture. He drains his drink and stands up, sending the manager into a panic as his payday slips away. The boss begs for 9%, then 8%, then 7%. He is desperately trying to haggle for his life. 6%, then 5%. At this rate, the shop makes zero profit. As the manager hits rock-bottom despair, Dojin pounces graciously, agreeing to 1% out of old friendship. The manager wants to scream in frustration. He wants to curse this extortionist, but he cannot let these crystals go. Then Dojin drops a bombshell. It nearly makes the boss pass out from excitement. Beyond this hall, he has 7 more bags waiting. 7 more bags of priceless loot. The contract is whipped out and signed in record time. Minutes later, 67 billion won hits Dojin's account. That is a cool $48 million in the bag. That 110 billion won mansion is finally within reach. But farming more high-grade crystals is a grind. Normal gates take way too long. If he could just find a way to travel through rift zones freely, he could farm legendary loot like an absolute madman. Suddenly, an emergency alert flashes on his phone. A national broadcast hits every screen. A massive wave outbreak has struck the southern United Kingdom. The news is finally public. Effective immediately, everyone is banned from traveling to the United Kingdom. Seeing a real crisis unfold, Dojin loses interest in trolling the manager and locks back in. Back then, regardless of the guild or nation, he would have stepped in to crush the rift personally. But those days are gone. Tonight he's got a much higher priority, a luxury meat feast on his dime. Little Yun Yang stared wide-eyed as premium marbled beef sizzled on the grill. The feast was just beginning. Gourmet platters flooded their table. Seeing the eye-watering prices, Grandma started to panic about the bill. She hesitated, asking if they could truly afford this. 250,000 won per serving. That's insane. Dojun just grinned. After his massive crystal haul, they could eat like royalty without breaking the bank. His balance wouldn't even flinch. One bite of that A-grade beef, and Yun Yang was in absolute heaven. As Grandma fretted, Dojun stacked the grill higher. Fresh ribs, prime cuts, the meat train wasn't stopping. Ribeye, strip loin, and skirt steak arrived in waves. The sheer amount of food was becoming legendary. How could they possibly finish this mountain of meat? Clearly, Grandma didn't know one vital thing. Never underestimate a protagonist's stomach. To distract her, Yun Yang nudged Grandma to take a bite. She couldn't resist those puppy dog eyes. One taste of that high-end Wagyu was a total game-changer. Her anxiety vanished instantly. The family shared a golden moment, their laughter echoing through the restaurant. While they celebrated, a stunning woman walked in, commanding the attention of every single person there. Heads turned and jaws dropped as she passed. She didn't hesitate, heading straight for Seo Dojun's table. She called his name, demanding a moment of his time. She claimed it was just a quick chat. Dojun shut her down immediately for ruining their meal. If she had something to say, she'd wait. Beat it until dinner's done. Shocked, Hyun Ju-yeon flashed her business card, expecting instant respect. To her horror, Dojun ignored her completely, focusing solely on the sizzling steak in front of him. The elite S-rank hunter actually obeyed, sitting in the lobby. A superstar like her in a normal diner. She was a total magnet for attention. Everyone was whispering, unable to look away from the legendary hero. This woman was the nation's fourth-ranked powerhouse. She stood at the very peak of the hero world. Rumored to be a global top 10 beauty, every witness was left with one burning, confused question. Who on earth has the nerve to make Ju-yeon wait? She ignored the gossip, replaying their encounter. Do-jun survived his first gate only 2 months ago. Now he's suspected of a secret awakening. Rumors said he perished in the Mapo rift. Yet here he was, casually enjoying a family barbecue. Nothing about him added up. But there was one thing she couldn't ignore, that terrifyingly sharp gaze. One look from Do-jun sent shivers down her S-rank spine. Could a rookie really be this strong? Hitting S-rank in 2 months is impossible. Even Tycoon Kafmore with all his riches took much longer. 5 months was the record. Ju-yeon concluded that Do-jun must possess a hidden god-tier ability. Whatever his secret, the feast was finally over. Do-jun's family left the table full and happy. Ju-yeon intercepted them near the exit, ready for answers. But the mystery was about to deepen. Suddenly, a group of arrogant hunters strutted in. Their leader radiated pure, unadulterated ego and malice. Do-jun's eyes narrowed into slits. This trash didn't expect to see him alive after the gate. Surviving a death trap was impressive. The psycho Kang Chul-woo seemed genuinely amused by Do-jun's luck. Do-jun had the resilience of a cockroach. Even Ju-yeon recognized this man as a dangerous menace. Tension hung heavy in the room. Ignoring the petty trash talk, Do-jun turned his focus back. He called Ju-yeon over. Chul-woo froze, shocked to see a legend talking to a nobody. He asked her to escort his family to a taxi, just get them home safely and quickly. He needed them gone before he settled a violent debt with this stray dog. It was housekeeping time. Ju-yeon played along, leading Grandma and the girl away. She promised them that everything was fine. She waved goodbye, but the family's worry was palpable. They knew something big was about to go down. The taxi sped off, leaving a tense silence. Then a thunderous slap echoed through the entire restaurant. Family's gone, so the kid gloves are off. It was finally time to put this trash in place. His speed was godlike. Chul-woo never saw it coming, only felt the burning sting of a legendary strike. Fuming from the absolute disrespect, Chul-woo gnashed his teeth and lunged forward for payback. A terrified server rushed in to intervene, dreading these awakeners would level the entire building if things got any bloodier. Her plea for peace was answered with brutal violence, but luckily she escaped without any major injuries. Seo Do-jin coolly ordered the crowd to evacuate for their own good. Man, Chul-woo is such a total glass cannon emotionally. This meathead is honestly too dim-witted to even come up with a decent comeback. Punishment came swift with a direct punch to the jaw. He never saw it coming, just felt a heavy fist colliding with his skull. Kang Chul-woo is the same scumbag who trapped the original Do-jin inside a gate and left him to rot. Even if he wasn't the direct victim, our main character still feels a burning hatred for this absolute loser. Now the trash talk starts. Chul-woo, looking like a literal goblin, smirked while mentioning Do-jin's wicked stepmother. She was the mastermind behind it all. Realizing that interrogation was actually light work with this moron, Do-jin whipped out his phone and hit record. All he needs is a crystal clear, undeniable confession on tape to make his future a breeze. Once more, Do-jin's cold indifference triggered the goon. Charging his fist with raw energy, he hurled a vile insult at Do-jin's mom and unleashed a frantic assault. He's desperate to finish what he started and delete Seo Do-jin once and for all. Too bad for this clown, though. His low-level brawling is nothing compared to Do-jin's elite skills. Do-jin countered the explosive punch with effortless grace and deflected the strike like it hit an invisible, indestructible wall. Kang Chul-woo had never felt so helpless. Usually he just unga-bungas his way through every single obstacle to get his kill. Now he's facing a monster whose power level is completely off the charts for his tiny pea-brain to handle. Suddenly he's airborne. Do-jin tracks him through the air like an apex predator toying with his dinner. The sickening sound of bone-meeting fist rings out, while the terrified server desperately tries to call 911. But before she can even dial, a slender hand snatches the phone away with a radiant smile. Hyun-ju-yeon promises she'll handle this mess personally, so there's zero need for the cops. The server is just relieved to see a friendly face during her mental collapse. A relentless barrage of strikes rains down on Chul-woo, leaving him absolutely no room to breathe. Ju-yeon knows this bottom feeder is a B-rank hero. Usually someone of that tier shouldn't be getting bodied this hard. Judging by this absolute massacre, Do-jin has to be at least A-rank level. But even so, this fight is way too one-sided. Before things get lethal, Hyun-ju-yeon gently tells Do-jin to chill out. Honestly, she's just terrified. Chul-woo's heart might actually stop if this beatdown continues for another minute. Taking her advice, he tosses the goblin's unconscious body onto the floor and brushes off his hands. Sensing some major bad blood, Ju-yeon asks how much the young man actually knows about this trash. Jin might not have the full story yet, but he knows plenty enough to deliver a world of pain. Ju Yan drops a warning. This cockroach is actually related to Kang Young Pyo, an S-rank powerhouse. But hey, Jin already knew that and literally couldn't care less. Ju Yan has never seen anyone this chaotic and fearless. This guy is genuinely unfazed by the terrifying wrath of an S-ranker coming for his head. Ju Yan explains that Young Pyo is notoriously overprotective of his absolute failure of a cousin. News of this beatdown will definitely hit the big guy's ears soon. And when it does, it's going to be a bloodbath. Jin just scoffs at her concern. He's the last person on Earth to be intimidated by some flashy, S-rank celebrity. Honestly, he's more ticked off that Ju Yan seems to know way too much about his private business. With the goblin out cold, Jin shifts his cold gaze to this nosy S-ranker. He stares her down with pure feral energy. Ju Yan is no pushover though. She isn't flinching from a little intense eye contact, quickly pivoting the convo. She says sorry for the unannounced visit and gets straight to business. Her uncle sent her for a little talk. Since she heard about the bag of hero-tier magic crystals he offloaded, Ju Yan wants to secure the remaining stash. She's ready to buy him out, price be damned. Jin gives her a fair warning it's going to cost a fortune. He's sitting on a massive hoard of elite loot after all. She reassures him that the deep pockets of a top-tier, S-rank hero are way beyond his wildest dreams. Well, he's down to sell, but he's got one major condition first. A trivial request really, especially for a living legend like Hyun Ju Yan. Across the city, the sound of luxury glass shattering echoes through a high-end penthouse. Jin's wicked stepmother is losing it after discovering her dead stepson is actually breathing. Her minions swore the rift claimed him, but the latest intel confirms Jin cheated death. Kid's a total cockroach, sending prayers to the bald guy because serving this lady is pure nightmare fuel. Can't even blame him since the Hero Association officially marked Jin as deceased, but she doesn't do excuses. She demands results. Making matters worse, news just dropped that Jin absolutely wrecked Kang Chul-woo. It's clear now Seo Jin knows exactly who tried to have him erased from existence. Realizing she's exposed, the stepmother chokes on her own fear. Not of Jin though. She's terrified of the fallout once her father or husband uncovers her dirty laundry. Burying the truth is easy, but a media leak would send their stock prices into a total freefall. She orders a total media blackout. One slip-up and T Group and W Group will terminate every contract. First priority by the police. Luckily, her team is already moving to silence any potential whistleblowers. Seeing a shred of competence from her subordinates finally takes the edge off her stress. Director Lee whispers the hard truth cover-ups are just band-aids. They need a permanent fix for this problem. The bald director has a lethal strategy to end this migraine once and for all. They need Kang Chul-woo's cousin, the notorious S-ranker Kang Young Pyo. Even she knows his terrifying reputation. Chul-woo is absolute garbage in the hero world, but his bond with his elite cousin is legendary. Truth is, Chul-woo is just a puppet handling the bloody work for his superior cousin. They're both psychos. If Chul-woo gets busted and dragged by the media, it ruins the S-ranker's image too. Actually, he's already making moves to scrub this PR nightmare from existence. Decision made. The stepmother demands a face-to-face with Kang Young Pyo immediately. Plus, that traitor Hwang Chang-soo from HCS Capital has officially jumped ship to the enemy side. He's protecting Jin's family. In retaliation, she demands a prosecutor on the line within 60 seconds. Betrayal comes with a heavy price. Cut to the next day, a hero squad enters one of Korea's 37 rift zones. Only 5 are secured gates. The rest are restricted, accessible only to heroes registered with the association. Right on schedule, the legendary Hyun Ju Yan is personally spearheading the raid today. Her S-rank status grants her ultimate access. Among the elite heroes stands a guy in a thrashed hoodie. Ju Yan drafted A-rank Jong in Ju's Clio Guild as her backup for this mission. Rolling with an S-ranker is a rare flex, so the squad is hyped. Ju Yan's excuse, she just wanted some fun. A simple warm-up, she claims. But in reality, this entire setup was carefully orchestrated. To smuggle the mysterious young man inside Seo Jin traded away his entire hoard of magic crystals. He'll sell them at cost to Ju Yan, provided she grants him entry to the restricted rift. His goal, fast cash from high-tier zones. Sure, rifts are gold mines, but this is pure madness. Diving into a death trap for profit without blinking is crazy. But hey, she doesn't really care. She only cares about securing those crystals. After trekking through a pitch-black tunnel for a few minutes, the team emerges into a shimmering forest, unable to contain her burning curiosity. Inju starts prying, desperate to know who this mysterious guy following them actually is. Ju Yan plays it cool, calling him an acquaintance. Nobody buys that weak excuse. Inju even suspects he's her boyfriend. Annoyed by the chatter, she drops a half-truth she's only bringing him because she owes him big time. An S-rank owing a favor, that's unheard of. But as the group gossips, a massive shadow suddenly swallows the sun. Everyone looks up to find a monstrous beast looming above. Like the A-rank pros, they are Clio Guild instantly draws steel and shifts into combat formation. Their first challengers, the terrifying cockatrices. As a veteran raider, Ju Yun immediately seizes command. She snaps out precise orders. Inju and Do Yan hold the line, while Seong Ho targets the legs. Before the roles were even finalized, a blur streaked past the team with one explosive gravity-defying leap. He bridged the sky to reach the flying monster. Dujin completely ignored the tedious group strategy, plunging into a solo duel with the beast. The Clio heroes watched, stunned by his sheer audacity. Should he take channeling power into his fist? Dujin aimed for the kill. Earlier, Inju was cursing her bad luck. A high-tier threat appeared right at the start. But before they could even form a line, Dujin ditched his gear. While Ju Yan barked orders, he tore through the air like a literal railgun. He was pure speed. In one bound, he erased the avian monster's height advantage in the clouds. Total field dominance. His burning aura was so dense that the giant chicken could not even react. It was too slow to block. Consequently, the beast took a full-force smash straight to its beak. The bird hit the dirt while the human soared. Talk about a cinematic power reversal. Dujin touched down effortlessly, not a single sweat drop visible. The cockatrice was now clinging to life. A massive fist imprint scarred its face. The Clio Guild stood there completely shell-shocked, right next to their S-rank ace. They watched the savage execution as Dojin raised his heel. He pulverized the bird's skull into red mist. It looked brutal, but that's how you finish a cockatrice. These beasts require overwhelming force. Every impact sent the sound of shattering bone echoing through the air. Inju's curiosity piqued. Who was this guy? Truthfully, even Ju Yan was starting to wonder. She knew Seo Dojin was powerful but strong, then did not even begin to describe this monster. Only a handful of elites could pull this off. One-shotting a cockatrice is straight-up legendary tier. Ju Yan tried to stay cool, mentioning her sister, one of the few, on that exclusive list of top-tier heroes. Still, Inju could not ignore the hidden beast among them. She was mesmerized by the display. Ju Yan recognized the boy's terrifying potential and cold decisiveness. Intrigued, she changed the plan on the fly. She would head to the center with Dojin, leaving the others. Ju Yan approached the youth as he efficiently carved the beast's corpse for valuable loot. Before she spoke, he made it clear no loot for anyone who did not help with the kill. Luckily, Ju Yan was not greedy for crystals. She just wanted to invite him deeper into the gate's heart, to a place more fitting for his insane power level. He flashed a grin and accepted the hunt. Ju Yan knew these lands well, so she took the lead to guide the way. Dujin just had to keep up. Suddenly, she lunged forward, her velocity triggering a massive sonic boom. Dujin watched calmly as she vanished. He was not even fazed by her sudden burst. Tightening his bag, he coiled his muscles like a spring. With a thunderous first step, an explosion nearly knocked the Clio Guild over. Inju realized that if Ju Yan was a bullet, then this man was light itself. Abandoned by the two powerhouses, the remaining hunters turned to their leader for guidance. Following those monsters was officially out of the question. Today they had to accept their roles as background characters. At least the outskirts had mobs. In the normal world, they were hyped A-rankers, but compared to real S-ranks, they were nothing. Ju Yan and that mysterious man were on a completely different level of existence. Meanwhile, the two were racing through the forest at breakneck speeds. It was a dead sprint. Even at maximum velocity, Ju Yan kept checking behind her, searching for any sign of Dojin. Seeing nothing, she started to relax, thinking she had gone a bit too hard on the rookie. But just as she slowed, Dujin pulled up alongside her, asking if they could pick up the pace. Ju Yan nearly wiped out in shock. She had never met anyone who could actually match her stride. Nationally, she was top 2 for speed. But those rankings were about to get a major update. Dujin was literally making her eat his dust. Moments later, he stopped to troll her for being slow. While the S-ranker struggled for air, Dojin turned his gaze toward the horizon. The view was massive. A colossal mountain range pierced the clouds. He wondered what legendary threats were waiting inside. Ju-hyun's expression darkened instantly. That's the Caesarian's den, the most lethal boss lair in the rift. The Caesarian is a 20-meter nightmare, basically a draconian wyvern on steroids. Ju-hyun wouldn't even dream of trying to challenge that monster. Standard protocol requires at least 3 combat type S-rank heroes just to stand a chance. But Dojin, he's only focused on one thing, the legendary grade magic crystal. It's a god-tier treasure, just one step below the absolute peak. With loot that insane waiting for him, he's not letting go. Ju-hyun obviously thinks he's being suicidal. Regardless, Seo Dojin is hunting that dragon bastard with or without her. She watches him accelerate, blitzing up the mountainside to slay the beast. Left with no choice, she follows him into madness. A grim fate waits inside the boss's lair. But with his unfathomable confidence, to challenge a beast that shreds S-rank teams, Ju-hyun is honestly shaken to her core, ready for the real shocker. When she finally reaches the site, she finds that same creature, the Caesarian dead at her feet. The raid is over. She has zero clue how it happened. Our boy just casually wipes his knife on the corpse, leaving her completely speechless. Joo-hyun is reeling from the shock. This wasn't just any boss. To put it in perspective, she mentions the legendary hero Park Hae-il, who became famous for hunting things like the Caesarian. Even as an S-rank, Hae-il was terrified to go solo during his first attempt. He brought 30 A-rank heroes for backup. But even with that squad, things went south fast. The A-ranks were slaughtered. Hae-il was the only survivor, barely clinging to life after the fight. After that bloodbath, the man actually demanded a rematch with the dragon. Only this time, he brought another S-rank and 100 A-rank heroes. A literal army. The battle was pure carnage. They focused on shredding its wings to ground the beast. Back then, the Caesarian was finally overwhelmed by a sea of attacks. It's like that 100 men versus 1 gorilla debate. I'm putting my money on the humans, by the way, and that was the result for the Caesarian's final stand. It was eventually defeated, but the cost was heavy. Only a handful of heroes survived, the rest were butchered. The devastation was so massive that Hae-il's guild, Sweet Life, still hasn't recovered 3 years later. Yet here is this average-looking guy soloing the same monster without breaking a sweat. And the kicker, while she's busy gaping, he reminds her she isn't getting any of these gems. Just for standing there fighting the air. Joo-hyun is annoyed, but she's more obsessed with how absurd this man is. If she hadn't witnessed it herself, she'd never believe it. The terrifying Caesarian was obliterated in a single strike. By one man. As for Dojin, our boy has successfully harvested the epic magic stone from the dragon's remains. He just stares at it and tells her he's done with the escort service. He's going solo from here. He even rejects the extra loot, like the claws and teeth. He treats these legendary materials like total trash. He rejects her plainly, leaving an S-ranker stunned for life. Instead, he's only interested in the monster crystals. He even tells her to keep the dragon's body as a form of payment. Joo-hyun looks at the carcass and realizes she doesn't want the hand-me-downs either. By evening, the rest of the group is losing their minds. 3 bags full of magic stones. Even the veteran A-rankers are calling hacks. For their entire guild, this would take at least 20 hours. Based on the quality, it would normally take over 3 days. They're all staring at Joo-hyun, who brought this rookie along, but she looks just as confused as they are. The guildmaster can't wrap his head around how Dojin won without any high-end gear. With this one feat, he's officially at the peak of Korea's hero rankings. Unparalleled. Everyone's realizing our boy is straight up cracked. Even an A-ranker suspects he's the absolute peak of the world at his current tier. She's floored. Right then, a drained Dojin lugs back even more heavy loot bags. A single day's grind netted him a mountain of gear. Now, the crew's starting to feel like no one back home would buy this story. Dojin's cheat code strength is honestly just pure, unadulterated insanity to process. Plus, they're strictly ordered to gatekeep every single detail about today's chaos from the public. It's a harsh reality check. Suddenly, that stunning S-ranker approaches our main man and starts yapping. To any bystander, it totally looks like a couple flirting up a storm. But that's just the squad's delusion. I bet they're already manifesting this ship into existence. To them, he's the only dude alive who can actually handle Joo-hyun's terrifying, monstrous power levels. Hilariously, the A-rank guildmaster soon clocks that they aren't exactly the power couple she imagined. They're actually low-key beefing. Seeing their faces, she's stunned that any man would dare talk back to Joo-hyun. Then Dojin just shoves a bag at her and ghosts without saying another word. It leaves the guildmaster completely shook. As for those overflowing bags of loot, Joo-hyun breaks it down. Turns out Dojin is actually terrified of the spotlight. He hates the idea of going viral just for soloing a Caesarian. To dodge the fame, he dumps the entire burden onto her. His cold choice leaves them both speechless. But here's the kicker. The law of attraction actually kicks in, and Joo-hyun gets obsessed with uncovering this mystery man's secrets. She's caught feelings. Meanwhile, elsewhere, we check in on that famous S-ranker Hale. He's currently going full beast mode on a poor punching bag. His assistant watches in awe as he vents his pure, explosive rage. Reminder, he leads the Sweet Life Guild. The assistant de-escalates him, noting that patience is the ultimate flex during these chaotic times. Hale agrees, certain that anyone sleeping on him will eventually feel his devastating wrath. Soon, the entire world will worship him as the peak guildmaster in existence. His lackey hypes up Hale's Caesarian kill streak, which honestly puts him in a league of his own, claiming his name will be immortalized as the legendary hero who took down the Caesarian. But facts, nobody's taking that title from Dojin unless a miracle worker literally rises from the grave. The guildmaster keeps yapping about his greatness to his assistant, flexing his past wins. Meanwhile, his guild is actually bleeding out and taking massive losses, compared to 3 years ago. Yet he still grins, thinking he's the only beast capable of slaying Caesarians, a delusion echoed by his one-eyed servant. Shifting gears to the high-ranker drama, we're in Kang Yang Pyo's office. He's scanning a report on Dojin's wild night. with Chul Wu specifically how he absolutely smoked Yang Pyo's cousin. Chul Wu tried to trap him, in that gate forever, but a plot twist triggered a massive awakening instead. Also, the client who ordered the hit on Dojin is none other than executive director Hong Hee-ju, basically Korea's richest elite. It makes zero sense why she'd target a random kid in front of Yang Pyo, until he finds out Dojin is her stepson. See the kid join the family at 7 years old, but as soon as Hee-ju's biological child was born, Dojin was tossed aside. Yang Pyo finds this hilarious, mocking how even old money families have such messy, toxic drama. Talking cash, the 3 billion won bounty seems like pocket change to a guy like him. Plus, Chul Wu is currently clinging to life after his brutal scrap with Dojin, covered in horrific burns. Worse yet, he's permanently blind and crippled for the rest of his days. It proves Dojin is cold-blooded, a level of savagery that even Yang Pyo has to respect. Yet Yang Pyo laughs, saying he would have personally sliced off limbs before crushing his skull. If you thought this guy was saner than his cousin, think again. He's way more twisted. As they dissect the battle, it's revealed that Juyeon was a witness to everything. Word reached that Dojin lent a hand. This stuns him, prompting a sharp and immediate interrogation. He fails to see the hype. Not even his right-hand man has a single clue. The case was buried deep. Boiling with rage, Yang Pyo violently seizes his subordinate. He bellows for the truth, certain a secret shadow pact exists between them. Terrified by the outburst, the assistant bolts to investigate before things get worse. Left fuming, Yang Kyung trashes the room, knowing Hee-ju's enforcers are coming. He is itching to fix his cousin's blunder and seize that blood money. She is swimming in top-tier wealth, making her the perfect mark for this vulture. Back to our protagonist heading home after the raid. Today was a wake-up call. Rifts beat gates for real growth, but this path brings new dangerous headaches. Staying low requires a long-term alliance with Juyeon. It is a necessity now. She warned him the world will hunt for the phantom who slaughtered the Caesarian. Fame equals a target. For now, the plan is simple: stash the loot. If he craves the spotlight, she is ready to make him a global sensation. He hands over the spoils, needing a solo way into rifts to protect her. He won't let her take the fall. Finally, he can crash in luxury tonight. The villa Chang Seop secured looked inviting until he spotted shoes at the door. Uninvited guests have invaded. He steps inside, ready for a tense confrontation. Suits are cornering his family. Their leader looks like a depressed anime-style detective. A predatory gaze locks onto Dojin. Yun-young runs to her brother's side. While Dojin processes the chaos, Prosecutor Park Cheol-young announces his cold authority. He wastes no time linking Dojin to Chang Seop's shady underground dealings. Dojin is slapped with an emergency arrest for his alleged criminal involvement. Sensing the trap, Seo Dojun plays along and peacefully surrenders himself. Shackled and charged with conspiracy, he is hauled off to a bleak cell. Inside the interrogation room, he hears a smug voice barking on a phone. The prosecutor brags to his master that both targets are acting like pets. After confirming tuition for his daughter, he lets a forbidden name slip: Director Hong. Big mistake. Dojin's supernatural hearing catches every syllable of that treacherous call. Entering the room, the prosecutor starts yapping about his noble crusade of law. He claims his mission is flushing human filth out of this law-abiding society. Slamming a dossier down, the corrupt official flaunts the evidence he has cooked up. He brags that these charges will rot the young man for 10 years. They have squeezed enough false confessions out of Chang Seop to bury everyone. Dojin just stares back, cold as ice. These empty threats mean nothing here. Annoyed by the lack of fear, the prosecutor drops his act and curses. Dojin asks if Hong Hee-ju sent him. The prosecutor's face goes pale. He panics vehemently, lying that he has never even heard that name before. Dojin stayed quiet to avoid a scene, but the stakes just rose higher. The prosecutor tries to act tough, boasting that his power is absolute. In response, Dojin releases a sliver of murderous intent, chilling the entire room. The prosecutor nearly collapses. A primal, bone-chilling fear grips his very soul. Facing a monster, the humiliated prosecutor prepares to commit a final, fatal error. He raises a hand to strike, but an intern bursts in before disaster. They need him outside immediately. A massive discrepancy just broke the case. According to the building's hero detector, Seo Dojin's official file labeled him as nothing more than a total NPC. Even after a desperate double-check, the stats didn't budge. But looking at his recent track record, how does a normal human cause that much chaos? Maybe the theory of him being an awakener was total cap. The prosecutor's intel came straight from Hong Hee-ju's T group, so the data was supposedly rock solid. Right now, Seo Dojin is a living, breathing glitch in the system that nobody can solve. Charging a civilian with superhuman-level incidents is a total reach. Internally, Dojin is just mocking the prosecutor's clown behavior. If he felt like it, he could snap those toy handcuffs and turn this entire facility into a mountain of rubble. He'd simply grab Grandma and Yun-young, ghosting this place for a much safer life overseas. Before he chose violence, Hyun-ju-yeon stepped into the interrogation room, looking sharp in a professional suit. She clearly caught wind of this bogus arrest and showed up to see what the hype was about. When she asked why he was detained, Do-jin just shrugged. Honestly, he was just as clueless as she was. Luckily, Ju-yeon told him to keep it cool. She's likely the only person alive who knows his true ceiling. The situation is mid, but unleashing his power now would just turn the legal system into a massive dumpster fire. Ju-yeon didn't plan on playing lawyer today, but she's 100% certain Do-jin is being framed. Seeing an innocent man about to get cancelled over fake charges, she felt obligated to step in. She figured the Hero Association would launch their own probe soon, and things were about to get messy. They will undoubtedly sniff out his forged hero license and dig into that Mappo Rift disaster. Do-jin casually asked about his family, basically treating this high-ranking hero like his personal secretary. When his gaze locked onto hers with that terrifying intensity, Ju-yeon folded and promised the family was safe. As she left to fix his legal mess, becoming his official rep, Do-jin made it clear he doesn't forget debts. She'd never admit it, but Ju-yeon actually liked being his go-to person. She vowed to squash this drama instantly. Ju-yeon wasn't kidding at all. Her chosen method wasn't a basic legal defense to prove Do-jin's innocence. Instead, she leaked prosecutor Park Cheol-yong's dirty laundry and illegal schemes, getting his career deleted on the spot. With that trash removed, the truth finally flowed. Seo Do-jin was cleared of those shady loan shark charges. Still, he wasn't getting off completely scotangent-free. The system still had to slap his wrist for one thing. That fake hero license was a problem, but thanks to Ju-yeon's legal carry, he only walked away with probation. On the drive home, the radio started buzzing with breaking news about a nightmare creature terrorizing England. They described it as a giant 1.5-meter mantis, with creepy bug eyes and insane leaping power. Hearing the report, Do-jin's eyes sharpened. He immediately identified the beast as a Mangasian. Ju-yeon almost swerved off the road. How did this ordinary guy know a name that's top secret intel? Only S-rankers like her should know that. The association keeps monster data locked down tighter than a vault. See, these aren't just random names. When these monsters drop, they leave behind magic stones packed with data. These stones contain the creature's essence, and more importantly, its true identity encoded in its very core. Modern humans use tech to crack that code, but in the ruined world, they used ancient magic. This means Do-jin is a walking encyclopedia for every horror that crosses between dimensions. He knows their names, their habits, and exactly how to put them in the ground. He casually mentioned that Mangasians are light work if you just use fluid from a red flower ant. It's harmless to people, but for those oversized bugs, it's an extremely potent and lethal paralytic toxin. Just one spray, and those rampaging mantises are finished. Ju-yeon's expression turned dead serious. Every word out of his mouth just makes him more of a mystery. Who is this Seo Do-jin guy? No matter how hard she tried to pry, Do-jin kept his secrets locked away. His mind was already miles away, plotting his next move to stop these headaches from happening again. There was only one logical path to peace. He needed to permanently delete that snake, Hong Hee-ju. Meanwhile, Director Hong is losing it, chewing her nails down to the bone as her anxiety hits the ceiling. She's desperate to bury her husband's illegitimate son, especially now that an S-rank hero is backing him up. The director's right-hand man came up empty-handed. No matter how deep they dug, the S-ranker's link to Do-jin remained a total mystery. If they slip up and provoke a powerhouse of that caliber, it's game over. All the corporate cash in the world won't save their hides. But there's a bigger problem. Hong Hee-ju panicked after seeing the report. Seo Do-jun bypassed the scanners, registering as a mere civilian, not a hero. Given his track record, he's clearly awakened a terrifying power. Perhaps a cheat code ability that masks his true strength from sensors. Hong Hee-ju is burning through cash for this vendetta, yet her team only offers half-baked theories. Fuming, she finally made the call to that S-rank thug Kang Young-pyo, tossing 20 billion won on the table. No, make it 30 billion just to erase the Do-jin problem for good. Hearing the offer, the greedy bastard immediately demanded double the price to handle this minor nuisance. Even his henchmen thought 60 billion was overkill for a simple hit. He might be a scumbag, but Kang Young-pyo is a sharp devil. He sensed Hong Hee-ju was backed into a corner with 0 moves left. Besides, her company is a money printer. 60 billion is just pocket change to someone with her massive wealth. Plus, Hyun-ju-yeon complicates things. Young-pyo is basically charging a premium for an S-rank versus S-rank showdown. Doubling the fee actually makes sense now. The lackey had to agree. Ju-yeon is definitely a lethal threat, but hearing his subordinate hype up a rival triggered Young-pyo's massive ego. He lashed out, swearing at his man for even questioning his dominance over a weakling like Ju-yeon. He bragged about finishing her in 20 minutes flat. Naturally, the minion began sucking up to save his skin. Fearing for his life, he nodded. With a wicked grin, Young-pyo shifted focus to his Hero Association deal. He's haggling for more perks before heading to the United Kingdom as Korea's official representative. They need help with the bug infestation, but the association is acting stingy with the funds. Those clever snakes publicize the deployment list. basically trapping the S-rankers into going whether they like it or not. Young Pyo is a lowlife, but even he thinks the association is shadier. The mission kicks off in 3 days. Korea's elite are teaming up with Japanese heroes for this joint operation. At the very least, young Pyo gets to link up with Takashi. Since these Macasians have no known weaknesses, being the one to find one is massive. That kind of intel would make his fame skyrocket. And speaking of those bug monsters, those pests are already swarming towards Cambridge. British heroes are locked in a relentless, non-stop battle. They're struggling to halt the monster tide. Being the UK, they've managed to field a formidable squad. Swordmasters are common here. However, even these brave vanguards are getting wrecked by a single, massive Macasian. This mantis-like beast is fast enough to one-shot any hero who isn't lightning quick. Pure terror. Finally finding their groove, the British team launched a perfectly synced counter-offensive. Their squad was perfectly balanced. These weren't just amateurs. They were high-tier professionals, showing off their skills. Mages unleashed devastating spells, shattering the creature's iron-like exoskeleton with raw power. Melee fighters followed up with rapid strikes, painting the streets in neon bug blood through seamless teamwork. The first Macasian finally fell. To ensure this monster didn't have some hidden second phase, they decapitated it. It was a hard-earned win, but taking down just one monster pushed them to their absolute limits. Then, to destroy their hope, more Macasians emerged from the shadows. They swarmed the exhausted heroes. By dawn, the UK's finest had been slaughtered in a horrific, bloody massacre. They fought like demons against the inevitable, but without any intel on their enemy. They were just lambs to the slaughter. Cambridge has fallen, and the Macasians are marching south. London is only 60 kilometers away. Just as the bugs prepared their final strike to erase the capital, a glowing mist descended from the clouds. The moment that liquid touched their shells, they began to convulse in agonizing pain. After a brief struggle, the monsters collapsed like dominoes. Paralytics surged through their bodies, turning their lethal blades useless against this sudden biological attack. Hovering above the culprit appeared. A helicopter trailed the mantis army from the skies. Inside that chopper sat the elite strike team from Korea and Japan. Even they couldn't believe their eyes. Unbelievable. Hyun Ju-yeon's gamble actually paid off. That red flower ant sap isn't just working, it's absolutely annihilating them. The Macasians are crumbling into hollow shells, unable to resist. Meanwhile, Kang Yong-pyo watches from the sidelines, his eyes narrowing. He doesn't buy it for a second. There is no way she just stumbled onto this miracle solution by pure luck. Snapping the team out of their shock, Ju-yeon seizes command, barking orders for an immediate skydive to end this nightmare. Fueled by total awe for Korea's top S rank, the hunters plunge toward London to stop the impending apocalypse. Within days, the shocking truth of the British operation spreads across the globe like wildfire. Everyone now knows the name of the undisputed MVP. Back home, obsessed fans and frenzied media swarm the airport. They're desperate for a single look at their national pride. Reporters are practically foaming at the mouth for an exclusive scoop. All eyes are on Hyun Ju-yeon, the savior of the UK expedition, who cracked the secret to the Macasian weakness. She spearheaded the victory and pulled a whole nation back from the brink. Word is, before her departure, the British royals actually knighted her for her legendary bravery. As Ju-yeon finally touches down on Korean soil, a storm of camera flashes and thunderous cheers explodes. She handles the fame like a pro, totally unfazed by the spotlight. Trailing behind is Kang Yong-pyo, desperately trying to look cool despite his absolutely tragic haircut. Ju-yeon is a seasoned public figure, but even she's staggered by the sheer intensity of this massive homecoming. Meanwhile, Yong-pyo takes credit for the highest body count during the mission. But let's be real for a second. He was basically just squashing paralyzed, defenseless insects. 200 hunters in total made up this elite squad. Korea's elite hunters are the only reason Britain still exists. The news is now flooded with every detail of the hunt, right down to the secret of the red flower ant sap. Strolling through the city, Seo Do-jin catches the broadcast. He stops, satisfied his intel worked, but seeing Yong-pyo's face on the giant screen instantly kills the mood. That arrogant prick is just another loose end he needs to tie up. Later, inside a fancy high-end restaurant, Do-jin meets the world's top hero, Ju-yeon, for coffee. She's feeling incredibly generous. Dumping a mountain of gifts for his family and him, she warns him not to peek just yet. She insists he wait until he's home. Naturally, Do-jin ignores her and spots some high-end threads in the pile. Among the gifts, she just wanted to offer a small thank you for his game-changing information. That casual tip turned her into the world's biggest superstar. Compared to what she gained, a few clothes are nothing. She literally offers to buy him a luxury car or whatever else his heart desires. Man just secured the ultimate sponsor. Ju-yeon knows he won't easily spill his secrets. Specifically how he knew the monster's weakness, but she asks anyway. As usual, Do-jin is a total brick wall. Pivoting the conversation, she asks about his next move. He's not the type to care about saving the world, or any of that hero stuff, but if he targets Heju and Yong-pyo, things are going to get bloody. To her shock, Dujin's only immediate goal right now is simply finding a new place to live, since their current safe house is just a temporary rental. While the new global star and the former sword god catch up, the other hero is living his best life. Yongpyo is basking in the fame, throwing a wild pool party packed with models. Even surrounded by beauties, the brat is obsessed with one woman, Hyunju-yeon. He realizes she wasn't this powerful before. She's evolved. Something feels off, and he's suspicious about how she really uncovered those bugs' weakness. During the flight home, Yongpyo tried to provoke her for info on Dojin. He mentioned how she rushed to his rescue during that mess with the corrupt prosecutor and Cheol-woo's brutal end. Seeing right through his petty provocation, Ju-yeon coldly reminds him that Cheol-woo was the idiot who picked that fight. Before that clash, he tried and failed to assassinate Dojin. Yongpyo's face twists into a sick grin as he agrees, blaming the fool for letting greed blind him. Still, blood is blood. He'll use his cousin's death as the perfect excuse to hunt down Seo Dojin. For a heartbeat, Ju-yeon almost lets her poker face crack. Feeling his shark-like gaze, she instantly backs off, claiming she has no stake in their personal feud. If blood gets spilled, she's out. Yongpyo is baffled. He swore she was tight with that Dojin guy. Shutting him out completely, Ju-yeon pulls down her sleep mask and drifts back into a nap. Even after their chat, Yongpyo couldn't shake the nagging suspicion that she was definitely capping. Paranoid as ever, Kang Yongpyo remained on high alert whenever Seo Dojun was involved. Over in England, the ground zero for the catastrophic breakout in Long Sutton was a place called the Shrubbery. The scars from the monster wave were still agonizingly visible. The British Hero Association scrambled what few heroes they had left, diving into the rifts to scavenge magic stones before the second wave turned up the heat. Outside, the guards were yapping about how they'd be top-tier D-rankers if they'd only known Mycesians were weak to red flower ant sap. If they'd crushed the wave early, they'd be swimming in an ungodly mountain of magic stones right now. See, once a rift shatters into a monster wave, you can kiss any hope of gate conversion goodbye. For round 2, it's a total gamble on what nightmare fuel will come pouring out. History is full of stories about entire nations being erased from the map during the second wave. That unknown factor is the real killer. Suddenly, the rift began to throb. The raid team had only entered 5 hours ago to harvest stones. It wasn't even close to extraction time. Still, the D-rank guards stayed sharp, since desperate civilians often try to snatch loose stones near the rifts. But instead of the usual exit sequence, the entire rift seemed to physically shatter. It wasn't the mining team coming out, but something far more sinister. A man with a scarred humanoid face emerged wearing armor that looked straight up otherworldly. This guy was no hero. His battle-worn gear and scars looked way too intense to be real. Before the guards could even think of calling HQ, they lost all motor control and floated into the air. The stranger took a single step that looked like a teleport, effortlessly hoisting the guards like ragdolls. British Guard Number 1 tried to retaliate with the U.K. signature three-knife technique. The blades flew, but green light circles made them vanish, like they were never even there. In a gravelly, hoarse voice, the man complained that these guards were pathetic. He balled his fist, commanding the green lights to painfully dice the guards into limbless mannequins. Imagine being turned into a human torso while on the clock. A suffocating dark miasma leaked from his body, seizing dominion over space. As he snatched a guard's smartphone, he checked the date and realized it had been 10 long years since he last stood on Earth. Yet his mission wasn't even 20% complete, despite all his dimensional rift efforts. Was it time to admit defeat? No way. He just needed to spike the mana concentration to get back on track. But first, this planet needed a serious cleaning. It was time to weed out the weaklings. Meanwhile, in South Korea's Pajun region, a young man was heading out for his usual farming grind, totally oblivious to the chaos brewing on the other side of the planet. Carrying nothing but a backpack, Seo Do-jun strolled into the restricted zone. Suddenly, his senses screamed as the ground began to vibrate with abnormal intensity. Just as he suspected, a swarm of repulsive worm monsters erupted from the dirt, ready to feast on some human meat. Their bodies were covered in metallic spikes and rows of razor fangs. Do-jun just stood there, completely unfazed by their flashy display of aggression. Instead of looking the monsters in the eye, he focused on the ground, staring right into the tunnels the worms had carved. With a single glance, he calculated the numbers, estimating 26 worms were lurking underground within a 100-meter radius. With a dark smirk, he charged mana in his palm, ready to put these bugs to the test. He wondered how many would survive his opening move. He fired a concentrated mana blast, straight down the hole, followed by a chilling, heavy silence. After waiting a few tense seconds, the anticipated explosions finally ripped through every tunnel in the area, spewing debris and scorching flames. Every worm squirming below was forced to the surface to avoid being roasted alive in their own home. Do-jun is a big fan of working smarter, not harder. Plus, this technique keeps the dirt off his drip. While he was busy farming free stones from those gross worms, a high-stakes meeting was going down in the city. Min Hongki, the Hero Association's deputy director, and his boss, Na Tai Wang, were discussing a young man who was becoming a major headache. They were, of course, talking about Seo Do-jun. According to reports, his power was so massive it couldn't even be gauged by a standard hero meter. Other executives like Vice President Park Seong-chul found it insane and dangerous to have a wildcard like that roaming the country unchecked. They demanded Seo Do-jun answer to the association for every bizarre mystery surrounding him. It all began with Kang Chul-woo's twisted scheme. He clawed back from the brink of death during a gate raid awakening with dark intentions. Do-jin underwent a total transformation. After settling old scores, he single-handedly crushed the emerging rift in Mapo. He might cross the line occasionally, but there's always a method to his madness. Bottom line, Seo Do-jin's raw strength is nothing short of absolute. Tae Wong noted that a wild stallion is always the toughest to break. Still having a powerhouse in their corner is a win. The catalyst for this sudden interest, Do-jin's demand for a hero license. Thanks to a high-profile recommendation, he bypassed the boring red tape entirely. His guarantor was none other than Korea's golden girl and S-rank superstar, Hyun Ju-yeon. The association's higher-ups were stunned. They knew better than to cross someone with Ju-yeon's massive influence. With her backing him, Do-jin's application didn't just pass. It flew through the system at lightning speed. Just like that, he became Korea's 8th S-rank hero without even visiting HQ. Now, with his elite status secured, he's free to raid any dungeon he wants. Judging by the total annihilation he caused in Paju, he's definitely making use of it. News of him incinerating deadly monsters reached the director. The old man found the young rookie's ruthlessness quite entertaining. Their latest S-ranker was already proving his worth. It's rare to see a solo hunter dive into high-level rifts without any backup or guild support. To most people, that's not just brave, it's pure suicide. Interestingly, the vice president who initially hated the guy was now singing a different tune. He wanted to go public and milk Do-jin's fame to boost the association's image. Luckily, Min Hong-gi crushed that greedy plan. He insisted on getting the hunter's consent before throwing him into the limelight. The VP countered, claiming that in these chaotic times, the public desperately needs a new icon to worship. An S-rank savior would be the perfect distraction for the terrified masses. He tried to sell the idea to director Na Tae Wang, but the old fox remained cautious. He wanted a personal meeting first. Meanwhile, our protagonist was busy turning monsters into ash. From mana-fueled blasts to sheer physical violence, Do-jin was carving through the swarm like a hot knife through butter. The surviving pests closed in, but for Do-jin, their clumsy attacks were painfully easy to predict. Channeling intense mana into his palm, he unleashed a devastating arc of fire. A dozen monsters were instantly incinerated. As he touched down, the charred remains rained from the sky. Standing atop a pile of smoking carcasses, Do-jin surveyed his handiwork. His palms were still glowing from the heat. He shook off the residual flames with a weary sigh. This was getting intense. Shredding elite monsters non-stop was draining his mana reserves fast. He needed a solution, and quick. It was time for a real weapon. To find top-tier gear, there was only one place to go. He headed to the Gusan Hero Complex and stepped into a shady-looking shop. A scruffy guy sat behind the counter. The clerk was glued to his phone, barely acknowledging the bell when Do-jin walked in. Without looking up, he asked about a reservation. Do-jin just slammed his heavy pack onto the desk. He wanted a custom blade made from the loot inside. The lazy clerk snapped back, refusing to help walk-ins. Every other store had already turned him away, claiming they were swamped with orders. This place was his last hope. But the clerk was more interested in his phone than a new customer. Fed up with the attitude Do-jin's patience snapped. He reached over and grabbed the guy by the throat. Through the clerk's panicked stuttering, Do-jin demanded to speak to the person actually in charge. The kid bragged about his father owning the shop. Fine, Do-jin growled. Then go get your daddy. He was only here because of a high-level tip. The clerk scrambled into the back room to call for help. Seconds later, an elderly man appeared. Emerging from the forge with a welding mask pushed up, he looked ready for business. This was Choi Chil-gwan, a legendary blacksmith. Do-jin wasted no time, dropping Hyun Ju-yeon's name. Mentioning the national hero caught their attention immediately. The old master was shocked an elite would seek him out. But Do-jin wasn't there to socialize. He emptied his bag, revealing rare loot. The master's eyes widened. It was the fang of a giant black viper. It's been ages since he's laid eyes on this rarity. Seo Do-jun's goal, a legendary blade forged from this exact material. He demands his steel be as long as humanly possible. Typical right, but the master smith immediately shut him down. Overextending non-metallic components would absolutely tank the durability. Forging 2 mid-sized blades would actually be way more efficient. Hearing that weak sauce alternative, Seo Do-jun scoffed, asking if the old man was just admitting his skills were mid. He wasn't paying for what was easy. He wanted what he asked for. One sword, fused, no compromises. In his world, length is everything. Hey, size matters, but it's how you swing it. Still, besides the absurd reach, he wants the mana absorption cranked to absolute maximum levels. Faced with these unhinged, impossible demands, the apprentice snapped. This kid couldn't stay quiet. He worships his father, a legendary smith capable of hitting grade 3 mana conductivity. So Dojun didn't even argue. Instead, he casually snatched a display sword from the shop's front window. He scanned the edge, labeling the material a mere grade 5. Then he gripped the razor-sharp steel with his bare palm. Silence filled the room as father and son watched their terrifying customer pull off a straight-up miracle. With a sickening crunch, his raw strength pulverized the grade 5 metal into absolute shards. That premium product, the very blade the shop flexed, as their masterpiece was instantly reduced to metallic glitter and debris. The kid thanked his lucky stars he didn't catch hands from this monster. The old man just stared at his shattered creation. Dujin dropped a cold warning: if you're gonna forge trash with my materials, back out of the deal right now. If my grip can turn grade 5 steel into dust, just imagine what it'll do to your face. Finally, securing a smith who'd actually listen, Seo Dojun headed straight for his next dungeon crawl. The target, a massive, one-eyed freak of nature. Sensing a predator, the Cyclops let out a blood-curdling screech. While most hunters flex flashy high-rank gear, Seo Dojun's solo clears in just a hoodie and some jeans. Since his custom blade isn't ready, these hands will have to suffice. But the Cyclops wasn't going down easy. It tried to stomp him into a pancake immediately. When that initial strike whiffed, the one-eyed beast completely panicked. Seo Dojun launched himself skyward, ignoring the massive size gap. His hand moved like a bolt of lightning, carving a massive chunk of meat right out of the beast's shoulder. The Cyclops shrieked in a high-pitched, annoying wail. Desperate to land a hit, the monster used its titan strength to uproot a whole damn tree. It swung the trunk like a maniac trying to swat the hooded menace. Too bad for him, aimless swinging doesn't work. Dojun didn't flinch. 2 more brutal, gaping wounds opened across the monster's shoulders. It was a total bloodbath. Normally, that would be game over, but Cyclopes are built different. They're basically cheat codes for survival. Their regeneration is so broken they can literally laugh off fatal strikes. Luckily, Seo Dojun already factored that in. If the boss has infinite healing, the strat is simple: keep DPSing so hard they never get a chance to recover. Despite the constant regen, Dojun sliced, diced, and shredded through every layer of muscle and gross guts. To end the raid properly, he decapitated the Titan and stuck a perfect cinematic superhero landing. It was a flawless, albeit messy win over the green-skinned tank. Dojun let out a heavy, tired sigh. Right now, keeping a mana-infused blade active for too long is just way too taxing and inefficient. He reached into his bag and pulled out a pitcher. Then he shoved it into one of the Cyclops' open wounds. Just like pouring juice, he filled it up. This was the real mission, harvesting that premium Cyclops blood. By sunset, he was back at the Hero District. He wordlessly slammed the blood-filled pitcher onto the shop's counter. He told the apprentice to hand it over to the old man. With this, those black viper fangs could finally fuse. Without another word, he ghosted the shop. He'd finally secured all the basic components for his weapon. But for that god-tier mana absorption, he needs one final ingredient, and it only exists in one place on Earth. While he was planning his next move, his fellow S-rank hero was picking up a high-priority emergency call. Hyun Ju-yeon's relaxing getaway was cut short the second she heard the destination Brazil. The weather was perfect and the vibes were immaculate, but that call officially murdered her vacation mood. Following their stint in Europe, the association was now deploying their top-tier heroes straight to South America. This meant the Brazilian government had completely lost control of their own rift zones. Ju-yeon knew the Brazilian monsters were absolute savages, but the magic stone drop rates, those were legendary. With massive stacks of cash on the table, Heracleum Guild joined the fray. She pushed Ju-yeon to lock in the mission. She had to bring that mysterious friend along. Inju was certain this guy was the nation's hidden 8th S ranker, the dungeon partner rumored to be Ju-yeon's secret lover. Inju was totally shipping this legendary power couple. It felt like a romance novel, 2 elite warriors slaughtering a terrifying Kasarian all by themselves. Following some serious hype, Inju finally convinced Ju-yeon to take on the high-stakes Brazilian raid. Still, there was no guarantee that mysterious man would ever return to that tiny shop in Gusan. Old man Choi stared at his masterpiece in pure disbelief. He never dreamed non-metallic components could actually work. Cyclops' blood acted as the ultimate catalyst, fusing everything together. Without this kid, he'd still be clueless. He'd never witnessed such an insane forging method. Now he could craft a blade of any length Dujin desired. They pushed the limits to 180 centimeters. Dujin demanded a massive 2-handed weapon. He requested a custom grip for one-handed strikes weighing exactly 5 kilograms. Old man Choi was stunned. The brat from yesterday was suddenly acting respectful. It turned out, the kid actually had some manners. Clearly, this weapon meant everything to him. Choi warned that 5 kilograms would be a nightmare to swing. Swinging that weight repeatedly is grueling, But Dujin's vision was set in stone. He refused to compromise on the specs. Choi predicted a 1-month forge time, aiming for a grade 7 mana absorption rate to handle the power. Grade 7 wasn't enough for Dujin. That weak capacity would never survive the true depth of his power. He needed one secret ingredient to break the limit. Dujin turned to leave, giving the old man his orders. Just forge the frame for now. The mana upgrade could wait until he secured the final rare materials. As a master smith, Choi knew exactly what the boy meant. The realization sent a cold shiver down his spine. Days later, So Do-jin headed into the heart of the city for a rendezvous with a high-profile lady. Hyun-ju-yeon kept her word and delivered a shiny new ride. Do-jin actually felt a spark of gratitude. She insisted this was a small price for his help. To her, a 1 billion won supercar was pocket change. No sweat at all. But when he flashed a rare smile, the cool Ju-yeon turned into a blushing mess. As he checked out the sleek interior, Ju-yeon asked what went down during his meeting with the Hero Association. The fossils in charge wanted to go public with his identity, but Do-jin demanded a king's ransom for his privacy. He knew President Na Tae-wong had noble intentions, but the political red tape made everything a total mess. Ultimately, talks collapsed after his evaluation. Do-jin didn't care and jumped into his new beast of a car. Ju-yeon slipped into the passenger seat and buckled up. She mentioned the association's heavy prep for the next mission. They were gearing up for Brazil. The moment she said the word Do, Jin's focus narrowed like a hawk. He leaned in, asking with burning intensity if she was going. Flustered, she managed a shaky yes. He casually asked her to tag along. An S-rank raid in Brazil. Now that was something truly legendary. The nation's hero felt her heart race, her face burning crimson. Meanwhile, another woman was seeing red with rage. Thanks to Do-jin, the entitled heiress Hong Hee-ju was currently getting fleeced for even more cash by young Pyo. He warned director Hong not to be cheap. Despite pocketing 3 billion won up front, the greedy snake still wanted more. He hadn't even begun the mission to eliminate Seo Do-jin. The countdown to chaos had Hong Hee-ju seriously considered outsourcing her blood-stained tasks to a professional. She figured the world was crawling with bottom feeders, ready to commit murder for a massive payout. Kang Young-pyo mocked her stale information before tossing her a game-changing tip for free. He dropped the bombshell that Seo Do-jun had ascended to S-rank status, placing them on equal footing. Director Hong couldn't fathom that the pathetic, spineless brat she'd discarded had evolved into an unstoppable superhuman. Yong-pyo dropped serious cash for these secrets, so if she wanted to stay delusional, he could wait. Let her wait until Do-jun reaches the peak and claims her head. Terrified, she begged him to stay. Drowning in fear, the desperate woman vowed to pay any price just to erase Seo Do-jun from existence. Grinning Yong-pyo pivoted. He didn't want a one-time payout. He wanted a seat at the corporate table. He demanded an alliance with her massive conglomerate, and in her panicked state, she'd agree to any bargain. Right then, a crucial ping hit his phone. It seemed luck was finally shining on this wicked director. A golden opportunity to eliminate Do-jun appeared just as news of a massive overseas mission sparked a frenzy. The nation's elite S-rankers accepted the call, boarding a high-end private jet destined for the battlefield. Social media exploded as fans hyped up 5 legends heading out to save a nation facing total ruin. Pride swelled among Korean fans for Jeong Sung-ho, the powerhouse who single-handedly dominated the P group. He's purely mercenary, only moving for massive payouts. Right alongside him stood the desperate Park Hae-il. With his guild crumbling into oblivion, Hae-il desperately needed this mission's bounty to survive the fallout. Then there's the iconic Hyun-ju-yeon. Fresh off saving Britain, she's already flying toward Brazil. Skipping rest entirely, she's joined by Kang Yong-pyo, who likely bit the hook for those tax breaks. Amidst the chaos, scoring even one high-grade magic stone could instantly transform a commoner's entire life. But while the big names trended, one mysterious figure sparked more confusion and questions than actual hype. To the public, Seo Do-jun was just a green rookie making his quiet debut on the world stage. With these 5 apex predators touching down, Brazil's calm was about to be shattered in a major way. Following a quiet cross-continental haul, the elite squad finally touched down in the heart of Sao Paulo. Brazil's Hero Association scrambled to finalize their strategy, rolling out the red carpet for Korea's legendary force. Out of every nation petitioned for aid, the Koreans were the first to answer the call for help. Some S-rankers didn't even bother with a hotel, diving headfirst into the action immediately upon landing. Yet the officials were sweating, terrified these elite outsiders might uncover the dark secrets they'd buried. Secrets never stay buried forever, so they'd have to keep this operation on an incredibly tight leash. They had to hide that Brazil's pride, the hero Maurice, had been brutally taken down by a phantom. His end was horrific, but no beast caused it. His black box clearly recorded a human assassin. The Santarem rift was a total mystery as the Korean squad suited up for their high-stakes briefing. As the others locked in, Hyun-ju-yeon was distracted, frantically messaging and scanning for Seo Do-jun. Turns out, he never even exited the jet, catching a connecting flight to a far more distant location. He was gunning for the Santarem rift. leaving Ju Yan spiraling with anxiety over his reckless charge. The plan called for 2 days of prep, yet Du Jun was already breaking every established protocol. Following the meeting, Ju Yan bolted for a cab with a suspicious Kang Yongpyo hot on her heels. Breaking rank, she snapped that she was heading to Santarem just to get him off her back. Yongpyo smelled a rat. The locals had specifically flagged that zone as a literal death trap. The Santarem Rift was a desolate graveyard where Hyun Ju-yeon and her guild finally caught Do-jun. Since they'd trekked to this hellhole, they weren't about to let him tackle this solo mission alone. Ju-yeon demanded answers for his reckless speed, but Do-jun simply countered that they were just slow. They traded barbs like an old couple until an annoyed Do-jun finally decided to spill the truth. He doubled down on their lateness as they continued their petty squabble like a long-married pair. Finally worn down by her interrogation, Do-jun revealed his true target, the legendary Blue Croco. Ju-yeon wasn't vibing with his casual attitude. Irritated by his lack of respect, she flexed her 3-year age gap. She demanded he show some manners. As they kept clashing, the Clio Guild just watched the chaos unfold. Leader Jung In-ju was floored. No one usually had the guts to talk back to Ju-yeon like that. Venturing deeper into the rift, some Clio members got cold feet about pushing forward without a solid strategy. However, having the elite Hyun Ju-yeon on the team kept them grounded. Her combat skills were absolutely top tier. Strangely, the rookie was calling the shots. While the veterans questioned the guy out front, those who saw his previous dungeon clear knew he was legit, still feeling a bit uneasy. Ju-yeon asked if Do-jun meant to close the rift. He laughed off that over-the-top goal. He was just there to loot materials and milk the zone dry. After several minutes of quiet hiking, they hit their first wall. The Clio Guild was stacked with elite A-rankers, and they immediately jumped into formation. Their team synergy and orders were perfectly synchronized to handle any surprise mobs. But the massive blue crocos blocking the path looked way more terrifying in person. They were stuck on defense, and things were getting sketchy. Seeing the group stall, Seo Do-jun stepped up. Unsheathing his blade, he told the A-rankers to move. While they stared, this man started aura farming like a pro. Old Man Choi saw he was hunting for croco hearts, so he tossed Do-jun a legendary blade. He locked onto his prey and launched forward like a missile. In one blur, he shredded those crocos into sashimi. He was so fast, it looked like a literal anime slash. Do-jun was already walking away before the beasts even hit the floor. His believers felt vindicated. Meanwhile, the skeptics who doubted his leadership were left completely speechless. The dude's power is absolutely cracked. After that skirmish, the trek through the rift was smooth sailing. Night fell, and the party set up their campsite. Around the fire, the Clio Guild couldn't stop glazing Mr. Seo Do-jun for soloing those blue crocos. In a single strike. He didn't even break a sweat. The public hasn't heard yet, but that's the same way he folded the legendary Kassarian. This man is built different. While they gossiped, Do-jun was focused on his suspicious-looking steak. Hyun Ju-yeon walked over and asked if he'd finished packing. Those blue croco hearts. His coolers were literally overflowing with monster loot. Ju-yeon couldn't fathom what he'd do with those. Peering at his pan, she asked what kind of meat he was frying. It definitely wasn't beef. He casually offered her a bite. "It's just blue croco meat," he said. They had plenty of rations, yet this guy was eating his kills. Ignoring her disgusted look, Do-jun devoured the monster meat. He ate, like he was at a 5-star steakhouse using a combat knife as cutlery. It was pretty cursed. Even Jung In-ju was shook. They had normal food, but their leader was feasting on dungeon monsters. But then Ju-yeon's curiosity took over. She actually picked up a piece and gave it a long look. In-ju tried to stop her from doing something so reckless, but Ju-yeon trusted his weird taste. As the blue meat neared her lips, In-ju watched in pure horror. Ju-yeon took a small nibble of the gross meat. After one swallow, her eyes widened at the incredible flavor. Just like that, the two shared a bizarre feast. Totally confused, Jung In-ju whispered, "Mr. Seo Do-jun, what's the play? How did a total nobody charm someone as cold as Ju-yeon? She's a total novice at dating, but she usually doesn't give guys the time of day. How did he rizz up Korea's national treasure into eating monster meat?" Thinking of romance triggered memories of the Imperial Academy. That was ages ago, before he even hit 20. There was Lady Mazel, of the Grain family, and the youngest daughter of the Lazulians, Wendell. Plus, his final light in that dying world, the legendary knight Veronica. He got lost in his thoughts, until In-ju's loud whispering snapped him back. His secret Ju-yeon is just a moth to his flame. In-ju thought that was the cringiest thing she'd ever heard. And so, the night passed in high spirits. Back in Sao Paulo, even Do-jin was catching a vibe, while Kang Young-pyo continued lounging in his opulent hotel suite. He's still scratching his head over why Hyun Ju-yeon bolted so early, especially since the official op-date wasn't even set. Intel says she's rolling with Seo Do-jin and the Clio Guild, so he turns to his right-hand man with questions. He grills him about high-value monsters in Santarem, though he is certain there is zero gold to be found in that wasteland. Everything involving that snake, Seo Dojin, is pure chaos, but Young Pyo's stress evaporates the second his phone buzzes. It is that toxic director Hong calling. Like clockwork, she is hounding him to see if the hit went through. Sensing her frantic energy, Kang Young Pyo asks what is going down on her end, and wouldn't you know it, she is spiraling terrified. Her old man caught wind of the news regarding Dojin's sudden ascension to the S rank. The chairman wants his golden boy home. With T-Group's boss stepping in, Hong Hee-ju is vibrating with pure anxiety. Young Pyo loves watching her squirm, but he knows he has finally found the perfect partner for a massive payday. He guarantees she won't be let down, promising the toxic director that Seo Do-jin is never stepping foot in Korea again. That promise finally gives Hong Hee-ju some peace. Meanwhile, Young Pyo marks a lethal destination on his map. He reaches out to a guy named Takashi. Since Do-jin ghosted everyone for an isolated jungle, the assassination just got easier. At daybreak, the Santarem expedition pushes forward with Do-jin leading the charge at the very front. Navigating with map in hand, Hyun Ju-yeon warns Do-jin that the jungle ahead is crawling with lethal threats. The biggest nightmare is the lynx, but Do-jin already knows exactly what kind of monster he is dealing with. Ignoring the safety of the perimeter, Do-jin dives headfirst into the most treacherous path in the entire thicket. Ju-yeon knows there is no breaking his momentum, so she begs him to at least shove in some earplugs. She is one step ahead with gear ready. Against a lynx, ear protection is not optional, it is a survival requirement. One shriek from that beast can paralyze your brain, but Do-jin just brushes off the earplugs like they are nothing. Ju-yeon keeps pushing, desperate to save his life. This intel isn't just a rumor, it is a direct hero warning. It came from Brazil's top treasure hero, but Do-jin just ignores her pleas, silently trekking forward into the dark. He cuts through the Santarem overgrowth without a word, forcing the rest of the team to follow his lead. Hyun Ju-yeon and the entire Clio Guild find themselves dragged along on this death-defying detour. After a grueling day of marching, the moon rises as they finally stumble upon the monster's hidden lair. The lynx watches them like a hungry predator stalking its next meal. It looks like a terrifyingly mutated, overgrown cat. The massive feline reveals itself, and Inju immediately screams for her squad to shield their ears. While the squad panics, Do-jin stands his ground, locked in a chilling stare-down between two apex predators. It is a pure battle of auras. Sensing the threat, the lynx unhinges its jaw to let out a soul-shaking roar. The beast unleashes a deafening, ear-piercing shriek that echoes through the trees. The Clio Guild members scramble for cover. Everyone clutches their ears, but Do-jin just tanks the sound wave without flinching. His calm is absolutely eerie. Ju-yeon is baffled why he is not defending himself. Suddenly, Do-jin drops his hand and focuses his power. He manifests a blazing orb of pure energy and snipes the lynx right where it is perched. Against the moonlit sky, the explosion silences the scream instantly. The beast finally realizes this human is a monster too. The lynx bolts, but Do-jin unsheathes his blade in a flash, hunting down his prey with insane speed. The rest of the team scrambles to keep up, still totally lost on what is actually going down. Deep in the heart of the woods, Do-jin's sprint comes to an abrupt and chilling stop. That first cat was just bait. They have been lured directly into the pack's den, and the kitty looks pissed. Infuriated by Do-jin's initial strike, the beast's eyes begin to pulse with a strange and radiant light. The predator scans the group and locks eyes with its target. It is Ju-yeon, and she is caught in its gaze. She starts falling under its spell, but Do-jin blurs in to shield her vision, calmly explaining the truth. The cry isn't what kills you, it is the magical gaze that freezes your soul. That is the real danger here. The fix is simple, everyone just shut your eye holes for a second and stay out of the way. Time for the main character to hard carry. Do-jin steps forward, ready to push his new limits. Behold the crescent sweep, a flaming arc of pure power that makes him look like a straight-up Super Saiyan. Behold the Vandian style's first form, a divine miracle birthed from one point. He leveled his blade. Slowly, he channeled a hyper-compressed surge of pure destruction. The lynx pack waited. These predators had never faced such overwhelming power, leaving them paralyzed with primal fear. Our protagonist unleashed his ultimate move unopposed. The Clio Guild's A-rankers watched, trembling in sheer awe. Like a vengeful deity, Seo Do-jin ignited his stored energy, incinerating everything in a blinding flash. The monsters lurking above realized their fate seconds too late. The entire pack was caught dead center. That single-point miracle completely vaporized them. The shockwave was so violent it nearly floored the girls. As the blinding light faded, a horrific scene emerged. A massive chunk of the ancient woods was simply erased. The earth was charred black, and the architect of this absolute devastation didn't even pant. Those foolish creatures chose the wrong target and paid with their lives instantly. For all the hype about their danger level, these mobs couldn't even trigger a single ability. To Jeon, Seo Do-jin was simply unreal. Yet against all odds, one mangled lynx still breathed. Despite its entire lineage being wiped out, the survivor remained. But Do-jin leaves no survivors. He stepped forward with chilling composure. Desperate, the beast tried to paralyze its looming executioner. Before it could act, Do-jun silenced it forever, decapitating the creature with cold, ruthless precision. That flawless strike ended this one-sided massacre. The beast's final vision through its mystic eye was the cold gaze of its killer. Do-jun knelt down emotionlessly, claiming the monster's rare orb. A pro hunter never wastes valuable materials. After incinerating the remains and securing the loot, the party retreated, their respect for Do-jun peaking. Do-yeon was practically swooning at his back. A singular thought gripped them all: the man leading them had transcended human limitations entirely. Some would rank him beyond the legendary Chauvet Alphonse. Others dared to place him on par with Kane Lester, the planet's reigning champion. Their trek back to the main trail wasn't exactly peaceful. As they entered the murky wetlands, a group of grotesque, undead humanoids emerged to challenge them. These brainless freaks really didn't know who they were messing with. Logic doesn't apply to zombies. They're just rotting husks, driven by a mindless hunger for flesh. Their rush seemed scary, but their movements were predictable. A single heavy punch sent a ghoul flying. Do-jun resumed his rampage immediately. He started popping heads left and right, completely unarmed. These corpses were about to catch these hands and go back to hell. Once he found his flow, it was a wrap. Skull after skull burst like overripe melons as the undead fell in heaps. With his literal bare hands, Do-jun tore through the horde. The stunned members of the Clio Guild finally realized they were just there for the show and enjoyed the live highlights. Once the scraps were scavenged, they pushed forward. During the walk, Julianne's curiosity finally boiled over. She pressed him about his mysterious technique, the legendary first form of the Vandian style. That miracle birthed from a single point. Indifferently, he asked if she actually wanted to learn it. Inju's eyes sparkled instantly. However, in this era of relative peace, he saw no point in teaching her. Such power would be game-breaking. Do-yeon bristled, feeling disrespected despite her status as an S-rank elite. Technically, they were equals. Noticing her stubborn fire, Do-jun briefly entertained the idea of sharing the Vandian sword arts. Ultimately, she realized he was an immovable object and began to pout. She looked like a kid denied a new toy. To keep the mission moving, Inju ordered them to proceed. The final stretch was a breeze, reaching the exit rift solely because of Do-jun's insane hard carry. They finished the zone with 0 injuries or fatalities. The plan was to return soon, specifically to seal the rift forever. That clear might be even faster. One by one, they stepped out. Inju was the last to emerge, only to be met by a fiery shouting match in Japanese. Ambush. Someone was definitely camping the exit to start drama. The more Inju listened, the more familiar it sounded. Amidst the chaos, Do-jun was somehow holding Fujishita by the waist. Wait, what's going on? Standing before them was Ryoma Takashi, the S-rank ex-Yakuza legend and lord of the Tokoku Guild. He brought his whole squad of hitters. Ryoma's plan was to terrorize Juhan today, but this random kid actually had the nerve to stand in his way. The giant threatened to cave Do-jun's skull in unless he vanished. Ryoma loomed over him like a literal mountain. Yet Do-jun looked absolutely chill. He even fired back in flawless Japanese, proving he had done his homework. Ryoma hated getting roasted in his own language. Sensing their leader's fury, the Yakuza lackeys started snarling like mad dogs. They barked at Do-jun to drop to his knees and beg for mercy. The goons just kept rambling on and on about how their master is a god you never provoke. Honestly, they can yap forever because Do-jun literally could not care less. Cutting through the noise, he flat out told Ryoma to beat it. As the tension peaked, Inju's anxiety started redlining. Tokoku sits in Japan's top 5, and Ryoma is a monster known for his bloodthirsty rage. Even for someone like Do-jun, walking away might be the smarter play. To stop a total bloodbath, she stepped into the line of fire. Young Inju was the definition of class, but Ryoma just dismissed her as a nobody who should shut her mouth. Her team saw red. Having their guildmaster insulted like that was enough to ignite an all-out guild war. But Inju kept her soldiers on a tight leash, swallowing the disrespect she formally identified as the leader of Clio. She tried to de-escalate the beef, but Ryoma literally spat on her peace offering without a second thought. He had 0 respect for some tiny Korean guild. The creep even suggested Inju should serve him personally. Right after he finished breaking Juhan, he reached out to snatch her, but Do-jun instantly shut that down. Losing his cool, Ryoma finally stopped barking and bit. His fist connected with Do-jun's face in a mocking strike. He figured that light tap would drop this random. Meanwhile, the Yakuza let slip that they had an agenda with Do-jun. It was obvious now. This whole encounter was just a dirty trap designed to bait our protagonist into a fight. Fine by him. Do-jun was down for the game and immediately returned the favor, rocketing his fist into Ryoma's jaw. That counter hit way harder. It sent the Japanese stereotype flying straight back into his group of hardcore fanboys. The goons who were talking trash a second ago were speechless. Do-jun simply told everyone else to back off. Since these thugs threw the first punch, anything he did now was strictly self-defense. The Yakuza drew their blades. They prepared to swarm, but their boss demanded a duel. Ryoma tossed aside his coat, revealing his massive frame. He waved his men off. Igniting the dormant S-rank mana within his core, the ex-mobster finally unleashed his true aura. He was out to show why he is Japan's finest. Juhan just leaned over to Dojun with one simple request. She didn't tell him to stop. Instead, she just asked her man to leave the gangster breathing even if he is half dead. The aftermath was inevitable. While the Japanese squad was paralyzed with shock, Dojun's team knew exactly what was coming. Seo Dojun started absolutely farming the trash-talking Yakuza clown. He literally buried Ryoma's face into the concrete. While Dojun's heel hammered him deeper with every strike, Ryoma somehow managed to scramble away in a panic. He crawled back to his boys like a wounded animal, desperately rethinking every life choice that led to this moment. How is this guy even human? The intel was dead wrong. One look at those eyes told him Dojun was a predator. Staring into that gaze felt like looking at his own grave. Every instinct screamed at Ryoma to run or face death. Honor didn't matter anymore. He just wanted to escape and never cross paths with this monster ever again. Too bad. He had to pay the tab. The young man flickered like a ghost and reappeared right in his path. Looming over the shattered gangster, Dojun asked who really sent him to stage this pathetic little stunt. He already knew exactly who was pulling the strings behind the scenes. Lying was completely pointless now. Dojun seized Ryoma by his greasy hair. The once tough Yakuza was now weeping, begging for his life like a coward. The bully's attitude had done a total 180. Disgusted by the lack of spine, Dojun began raining slaps. A few seconds into the humiliation, Dojun balled his hand into a fist to deliver the final crushing blow. He proceeded to reconstruct the gangster's ugly face with raw power. He hammered the villain into a bloody mess. Everyone watching was stunned into silence. It is not every day you see an S-ranker get treated like a middle schooler. After an endless barrage of punches, he tossed aside Ryoma's broken shell. Inju knew Dojun would win, of course, but the sheer brutality of this one-sided beatdown was staggering. After a quick breath, Dojun wasn't finished. He pierced the remaining thugs with a look that promised pure agony if they didn't vanish in 5 seconds. To pile on the trauma, Dojun planted his heel firmly onto the back of Ryoma's skull. Under the collective gaze of the crowd, he slowly applied bone-crushing pressure. One more inch, and Japan's elite S-ranker would be history, his skull ready to shatter like glass. Inju nudged Jian into action, who finally broke her trance to beg Dojun to stop. Before the situation turned fatal, he coolly stated that he'd take full responsibility for the fallout. Juhan had enough of the dark energy and hauled the youth away from the brink of disaster. Why cause a mess you have to clean up? Still, Dojun knew exactly how to handle trash like Ryoma. In his world, finishing them off was cleaner than leaving loose ends, but modern laws were a nuisance. His allies didn't want him tainted by such filth, so they forced the Yakuza to prove their submission. Inju barked an ultimatum at the thugs, and seeing their fallen leader, they hit the pavement instantly. They vowed to never cross his path again, but a simple bow wasn't nearly enough for Dojun. He craved total humiliation, wanting them to grovel in the dirt for their pathetic lives. Terrified of being vaporized in a single strike, the goons performed perfectly. Then Dojun mentioned the price of failure. Finger-severing was the Yakuza way, right? Panicked, the thugs started slamming their foreheads against the concrete. Their desperate pleas echoed as they bowed lower, so Dojun offered them one humiliating escape. Admit you are garbage and you might live. Gritting their teeth, the gangsters threw away their dignity. Survival trumped pride as they chanted the shameful words. The watching Clio Guild members felt a wave of satisfaction. Seeing the arrogant S-ranker reduced to a stuttering mess was the ultimate payback for the threat. With the score settled, they headed back to base. Fast forward to the next morning in vibrant Sao Paulo. Jian and Inju stood before the Brazilian Hero Association, ready to file their official report. The details of the previous day's carnage looked absolutely insane on a formal document. It described the total dismantling of an S-rank titan, Ryoma Takashi, by a single powerhouse. Despite dozens of witnesses, the sheer scale of the defeat was hard for the association to swallow. They had prayed for a peaceful alliance to seal the Santarem rift, not a one-sided massacre. If the data held up, Brazil would wash their hands of it and let Korea and Japan settle it. Let the respective nations handle their own mess. Next on the agenda was the Santarem expedition update. They scanned the findings from the rift zone, where things appeared deceptively calm for the moment. But Seo Dojun's name kept leaping off the page, piquing the curiosity of the Brazilian official. He requested a meeting, but Dojun was busy, supposedly tying up some very messy loose ends. Deep within a quiet ward, a man buried in bandages lay broken and unrecognizable. Through a haze of pain, Ryoma opened his eyes to find his literal nightmare standing over him. Clutching a bouquet, Dojun silenced his victim with a single chilling look. He was just visiting after all. But the flowers were a lie, hiding a lethal artifact known as the Eye of the Link. Dojun locked eyes with the crippled gangster, dragging him into a psychological battle he couldn't win. Trapped by the link's hypnotic pulse, Ryoma's mind was wide open for the ultimate interrogation. It was time to unmask the puppet master. Dojin spent hours peeling back the layers of the conspiracy. When the interrogation ended, the feared Ryoma was nothing more than a hollow, stuttering shell. His brain was utterly scorched, his only thought being a mantra of self-hatred for his past crimes. The psychic damage was irreversible. As Dojin stepped out, he knew the job was finally done. Ryoma was effectively lobotomized, forever chanting his own disgrace. That's how you handle a persistent enemy. While the MC was busy building his legend, word of the international showdown began to leak online. Headlines across the globe exploded with news of the brutal clash between the two nations. Viral videos and gruesome photos flooded the net as everyone scrambled for a piece of the new star. President Na Taiwang watched the metrics climb. His new recruit was officially breaking the internet. The hype was nuclear. Seo Dojin was the only name on anyone's lips, and the association felt the shockwave. The Japanese Hero Association went silent. Even Ryoma Takashi personally demanded the government kill the probe. Super weird, right? Especially since Ryoma is a total crash-out who usually throws hands with anyone. To make an entire nation fold, something massive must have gone down. As for the truth, Nada Wang was clueless, yet he sensed Dojin was the spark for a global power shift. We're 24 hours out from the Brazilian Rift Zone operation. The clock is officially ticking. Team Korea arrived early, already vibing with the terrain and sharpening their blades for battle. Strategies were polished and joint operations locked in. Elite hunters from every corner of the globe assembled. These world-class heroes gathered to hype each other up, praying for a clean victory and perfect teamwork. Brazil threw a massive pre-raid festival. But the real main character, the man of the hour, Seo Dojin, he pulled up in a sleek trench coat, maxing out his main character energy and aura. Amidst the five-star buffet, Dojin was a social butterfly, charming high-ranking heroes with effortless ease. The news of him dog-walking Ryoma Takashi went viral. Naturally, every hunter there wanted the tea. Every person who approached him had only one question: what really happened during that legendary beatdown? Despite the hype, he kept it humble. Meanwhile, Ju-yeon was brooding, stuck in her own head. Inju joked they looked like total NPCs next to him. Usually Ju-yeon would snap back, but she stayed quiet. What was killing her mood? Inju scanned the room and saw a dripped-out Dojin surrounded by elite royalty. Dojin was flexing his social skills with the world's biggest names, looking like a total boss. Then she saw Gloria Tyler, the world's most stunning hero, clinging to him like glue. Ju-yeon's jealousy finally made sense. Gloria was America's top S ranker and a literal goddess. Inju realized Ju-yeon was feeling the pressure. Inju slapped Ju-yeon's back, yelling at her to stop acting like a kid and go reclaim her man. Ju-yeon felt out of her league, approaching him with her eyes glued to the floor, totally flustered. Seeing her blushing like a schoolgirl, Dojin couldn't help but smirk at her adorable reaction. Gloria took the hint and dipped, but she called him Carcel, his secret name from a past life. Ju-yeon was totally lost. Who the hell is Carcel? She had no idea about his true identity. She figured it was just some cool Western alias. Honestly, she wasn't even that far off. It was the name he carried long before becoming Seo Dojin, a piece of his mysterious past. Ju-yeon's background check had missed this entirely. She was low-key fuming that another woman knew him better. The realization that Gloria had exclusive access to his secrets made her blood boil with pure saltiness. Nearby, a total snake was eavesdropping. Kang Young-pyo lurked in the shadows, nursing a drink and a grudge. He was internally flaming Ryoma for being a weakling who couldn't even handle one single rookie. Young-pyo was itching to rip Dojin apart himself. His blood was practically boiling with murderous intent. Ju-yeon leaned in, whispering a warning. She knew these villains wouldn't fight fair or follow the rules. She warned him that Ryoma's dangerous inner circle was present, and they were hunting for revenge tonight. Dojin cut her off instantly. He didn't care about their names or their petty, weak-ass schemes. Same trash, different day, he scoffed. To him, the mastermind was just another talentless, arrogant clown. Dojin didn't even flinch. He let his words sink in as he locked eyes with the target behind him. Kang Young-pyo quickly turned away, playing it cool like he wasn't just getting roasted to his face. He was on the verge of losing it. Then Dojin dropped a mocking smirk, the ultimate rage bait. It worked perfectly. Young-pyo decided he was done sending lackeys. He wanted to end Dojin with his own hands. Once the party ended, the heroes geared up. They deployed into the darkness the very next night. Inju, her squad, and Dojin gathered at the gate, ready to plunge into the abyss together. The Santarem rift looked cursed. It was murkier and more sinister than anything they had ever faced before. The rookies brushed off the bad vibes. They were overconfident, blinded by having two S-rankers on the team. They thought they'd just blitz it and leave. Seriously, what could go wrong? Inju gave the order to move out, but Dojin's eyes remained sharp, sensing a looming disaster. Staring into the tangled rift, he sensed a looming threat. The girls were totally clueless about his dark premonition. His chilling warning left them on edge. Almost imperceptibly, the local mana density surged at an insane speed. Deep within a clawed entity hovered, fixated on a smartphone, showing a progress bar at 23%. The monster knows 30% is within reach. At this rate, he'll have enough juice to squash those pathetic bugs called heroes. They breached the rift, but immediately a suffocating weight crushed down on their bodies. Every step felt like walking through sludge. Gasping for oxygen, the team realized the mana had evolved into something far denser than the Pedisua forest. Juyeon had never seen him this wired. Anxiety gnawed at her, but the mission was non-negotiable. They were locked in. Ever the pro, Juyeon kept her squad focused and disciplined. She steadied their racing hearts, dismissing the crushing atmosphere as just a rift quirk. Despite the lag, they stayed sharp, relying on their two S-rank powerhouses for protection. Juyeon urged them to prioritize the formation above all else. Until they solved the mana mystery defense was key. They swore that no matter the cost, they'd seal this rift. The clan boys were ready to follow her straight into hell. While Dojin entered the glitchy Santarem rift, another squad mobilized near Manaus. In Brazil's northern hub, an international coalition of heroes was already on the ground. It's a total wipeout. These guys are being devoured. If solo leveling had ants, we've got murder bees. These cocky foreign heroes expected a walk in the park. Easy C-rank fodder, right? Wrong. Even the A-rankers are getting slaughtered by these massive bugs. They're dropping like flies. These insects are pure killing machines with zero mercy. What else did you expect? One lone survivor threw a desperate punch at a flying beast. Total fail. His limbs felt like lead, killing his momentum. Usually he'd rip through this colony. Solo. But here they aren't the hunters, they're just helpless snacks for the real monsters. It's a literal bloodbath, and it's doubtful many of these heroes will survive the exit. Meanwhile, in Santarem, Juyeon barely evaded a massive axe strike during their first clash. Blocking their path was a horde of black orcs, and these weren't your average grunts. Much like the bees, their power levels were off the charts compared to their rank. Still, the boys pushed through, chaining their attacks with perfect timing. But sadly, fancy moves don't mean squat if they don't do damage. Despite their flawless synergy, they couldn't crack the orcs' ironclad defense. A sudden counterswing nearly wiped the squad out. Juyeon dove in, pulling the rookies back and scolding them for their brainless charge. With the noobs safe, Juyeon lunged back into the chaos. An orc tried swiping her mid-jump, but the S-ranker elegantly bobbed and weaved through the carnage. After some slick movement, she flipped the script, launching a devastating roundhouse. With supernatural reflexes, the beast pivoted to shield its skull. But Juyeon's bait worked like a charm. She bypassed his guard, her kick arching even higher toward the heavens. She came crashing down like a meteor. With one orc neutralized the rest of the pack, went berserk for revenge. Juyeon played them like a fiddle, forcing one orc to bash its ally with a massive bone club. Shocked at the betrayal, the beast froze in terror. That opening was all Juyeon needed. She blurred behind the monster at Godspeed. No more flashy tricks, just a brutal direct kick to the base of its skull. The boys watched in awe. In Seo Dojin's shadow, it's easy to forget Juyeon is a top-tier S-rank, a literal goddess compared to them. Only one orc left, and he tried acting tough with a roar. But a lightning fist shattered its jaw, ending the noise instantly. Juyeon totally owned the stage. Dojin is practically taking out the trash with these mobs. It is a total reality check. We are barely past the front door and already feeling the pressure. The difficulty is through the roof, even with two S-rank titans carrying the squad. Closing this rift is definitely not going to be a walk in the park. After erasing the orcs, Dojin inspects the carnage for clues. Juyeon hovers behind, curious to see what caught the powerhouse's eye. He points out a sinister black shimmer clinging to the beasts. To an untrained eye, it is invisible, a hidden death sentence. But focus hard enough and it is there. Dojin is now certain this dark aura is acting like a cheat code, juicing up the monsters. Its presence and feel are identical to dark mana, a forbidden energy that has no business existing in this world. Sensing the stakes, Dojin actually gets talkative, dropping a lore bomb on how this black ripple just broke the entire mission. Pushing deeper into the Sandarem Rift, the environment shifts. They have entered a new biome with a whole different class of nightmares. They are facing sentient piles of sludge, a vile pack of swamp creatures. Against these slimy bastards, teamwork is about to get tested. The Cleon crew jumps back into the fray to prove their worth. Their movements are sharp, their rotations perfectly in sync from years of practice. But the damage just is not landing. Pure cooperation only goes so far when you hit a wall that requires raw, overwhelming power. They manage to pin one down, but the kill shot never comes. They are used to standard swamp ghouls. But these things, this is a completely different breed of monster. Caught off guard and exposed, the boys are suddenly trapped in petrifying muck. Beer Guy manages to shake it off, but his tank partner takes the full weight of the impact. The force is insane, shredding a high-tier combat suit like paper. In here, every single hit is lethal. Panic and helplessness start to set in, as they struggle to keep their heads in the game. A single lapse in judgment here means a one-way trip to the grave. Thankfully, a guardian angel is watching. Guildmaster Inju is on high alert, her eyes scanning for any sneaky slime creeps trying to flank her squad. Her combat instincts are screaming. Jong Inju wields her blade like a literal extension of her soul, a blur of lethal steel. She did not reach the top by luck, but even she cannot shake this dread. If the minions are this buffed, the boss is a nightmare. The Valkyra is going to be a bloodbath. She realizes the horror. What if every rift on Earth is mutating like this? If this change is global, humanity is cooked. Meanwhile, let's see the chaos unfolding in a completely different rift zone. Over in Manaus, these rookies did not have legendary S-rank carries to save them. Now there is only one survivor left running for his life. He is sprinting through the brush heart, hammering against his ribs. Brazil's Arvato and France's David have already been erased. These S-rank legends were supposed to be invincible gods, but even gods can bleed when the rules change. They were butchered by just a few Valkyra vicious 8-legged nightmares. Back at the swamp, the boys discuss the bug waiting at the end. Dojin and Ju Young talk shop about the final boss. Dojin knows the truth. A Valkyra juiced on dark mana is a literal demon. That black aura turns a predator into a catastrophe. If the spiders have been infected, we are looking at a total wipeout. While breaking down the boss fight, Ju Young is busy sending these slime freaks straight to the Shadow Realm. Dojin gives everyone a crash course on high concentration mana being forced into a monster's body. It is basically forbidden science. Ju Young asks if he is talking about the blue MP bar from video games. Yeah, the academic lecture is clearly failing. Total facepalm moment. No one in this world understands that the gap between a hero and a loser is their mana capacity. It is all about how much energy your soul can house. Giving up on the teaching, Dojin decides to let his fists do the talking. Dojin punches clean through a ghoul's chest. He ponders the implications of a world that does not even have a concept for mana. It explains why this world was so peaceful compared to his old life. But at this rate, that peace is about to shatter. The status quo is on the brink of collapse. For now, though, he is just going to brute force his way through this swamp. With his bare hands, Dojin deletes the massive ghouls in a blink. The Cleon boys are just standing there, looking absolutely traumatized. They look like they crawled out of a war zone. Their S-rank babysitters, however, look pristine and completely bored. Dojin tries a simpler explanation. Black mana is like illegal steroids for monsters. They are basically roided out freaks. It is total monster doping. He finds it worrying that humanity is this clueless about the threat lurking in the shadows. Leaving the swamp behind, Dojin takes the lead. He is navigating them away from the primary Valkyra spawn points. They slow their pace to a crawl, moving like ghosts through the brush. A few minutes later, Inju signals a dead stop. The whole team halts. They have hit the jackpot and found the Valkyra's larder, a horror show of feeding cocoons. Wrapped in indestructible silk, killer bees and black orcs are being stored away for a midnight snack. Bound in iron-grade webbing, those lethal bees and black orcs were harvested and stashed as future tactical assets. The monster behind this slaughter is definitely close, but their leader says they can chill. Instead of hunting the beast, they stumbled upon the real nightmare. And thank God they did. Dojin launched a volley of fire at the frozen targets. His aim was cracked. Every fireball exploded, incinerating those cocoons instantly. Dark Mana Valkyra can actually puppet their dead prey like twisted marionettes. Wiping them out now is a massive win. Leaving them means a total disaster later. With their secret weapon toasted, it's finally time to squash that ugly spider. The team stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Honestly, totally valid reaction. Inju was just stunned. Even in this hellscape, he moves with absolute certainty. His power is straight up inhuman. Juyuan even teased him about his encyclopedic knowledge. She jokingly asked if he's playing a new game plus in real life. That actually got a laugh out of him. He briefly remembered his past self. To be fair, being Seo Dojun really is a second chance at life. He asked Inju how much further until they reached the rift's core. Based on the map, they were halfway. The jungle trek ahead looked like a massive grind, but Dojun claimed he'd clear the rift today. Absolute madness, even for him. A one-day boss rush. The Cleon boys were already running on fumes. They were gassed from the swamp ghouls, so Dojun decided to solo the spider himself. Without a word, he vanished. A burst of wind left everyone in the dust. No debate allowed. He was blitzing through the woods like an unstoppable train. The forest blurred as he scouted for any path to the final showdown. He picked up every detail, hunting for the trail to the monster's lair. Using elite tracking skills, he finally locked eyes with his hideous target. The Valkyra was a jagged, armored nightmare, dripping with lethal intent. It was covered in blades, and had a bite that'd make Peter Parker jealous. Dojun launched into the air, ready to serve up some serious pain. He started the cooking show by carving through steel-thick legs while still sheathed. Judging by that ugly screech, losing 3 legs at once hurts like hell. The monster spat sticky silk in a desperate attempt to catch him. Huge miss. Dojun danced around the webbing with god-tier speed. Time to end this. Crisscrossing slashes finished the show. The Valkyra was reduced to spider sushi. He even stuck the landing for the ultimate aura flex. Total boss energy. The beast that wiped out S-rankers was flattened in just 5 seconds. He took a breath, checking for fatigue. His stamina was still maxed out. That dark mana cultivation technique is basically a cheat code for his energy levels. Dojin strolled back to camp like he'd just taken a casual walk. The girls didn't even need to ask. They just knew he was him. His hoodie was soaked in blood, but he hadn't taken a single scratch. Since the area was safe, it was the perfect spot to set up camp. While the others patched their wounds, Dojin had a different plan for dinner. He was quietly grilling spider meat on a stick. Elite survivalist vibes. One of the Cleon boys worked up the courage to approach the legendary leader. Dojun had a massive stash of meat, so sharing was no big deal. The spear guy dug in, thinking the meat held the secret to his power. Soon, the whole squad gathered around the fire to try some of Dojun's meat. The group watched with bated breath as the boys devoured the meal. Dojun felt a rare surge of satisfaction watching them feast. It was merely fuel for the body, but he respected their relentless hunger for absolute power. On a sudden impulse, he wove his mana into the food, gifting them a hidden temporary surge of energy. The results were instantaneous. The boys felt a strange scorching heat coursing through their veins like wildfire. They credited the exotic meat, their wide grins actually forcing a faint smirk onto Dojin's usually stoic face. Strategy followed the feast. Inju unfurled the map, tracing a direct line through the treacherous monster-infested terrain. The path led straight to the core, but exhaustion had claimed the team. Retreating now seemed like the only logical move. Dojin insisted on finishing the job today even though their bags were already overflowing with legendary treasures. Safety demanded a strategic withdrawal for now. Juyeon nodded, siding with Inju's cautious and tactical assessment. Her stamina was flagging after those brutal skirmishes. Besides, these dark mana-corrupted freaks were becoming a serious nightmare. Honestly, they'd originally planned to milk this rift zone for every rare resource it was worth. The goal was legendary materials, specifically those elusive and powerful blue croco hearts that fetch a fortune. It was meant to be an infinite resource farm, but this sudden dark mana infestation ruined the entire plan. Radical shifts inside a rift are massive red flags. Plus that dark energy felt wrong, sinister, and suffocating. It hung heavy in the air, a mystery he couldn't solve. Without a word, Dojin gripped his heavy sack. He dumped the contents, revealing a pile of glimmering crimson Velcara eyes that illuminated the floor. Since they were desperate to retreat, he tasked the ladies with hauling this legendary haul back to the hotel. They could guard his share while he disappeared back into the suffocating shadows of the deep forest. He vowed to shatter the core and regroup shortly, but the path ahead was crawling with pesky obstacles. Freshly spawned swamp ghouls clawed through the muck. He tore through dozens of them like they were nothing. He was practically dancing through the slaughter. Honestly, crushing these slimy beasts with his bare hands was getting boring. His gaze narrowed. Steel flashed and ghouls disintegrated into foul ichor the moment they entered his lethal radius. The secret was sniping their cores instantly. Meanwhile, in the complete opposite direction. At first light, the Cleo Guild and Juyeon trekked toward the exit, a heavy silence hanging between friends. Inju's worry was palpable, but Juyeon shrugged it off. That man had enough explosive energy to outrun a bullet. If he still had the breath to talk trash, he could definitely survive. Or so she claimed. But the shadow on Juyeon's face told a different story. Her head bowed, looking utterly defeated and embarrassed. It wasn't fear for Dojin, it was her pride. Standing next to him made her S-rank title feel like a fraud. He was in a league of his own. High above Dojin's blade cut a graceful arc through the air. It slammed into a black orc's skull. Talk about a brutal one-way trip to the barber. A single surgical strike cleaved through bone and brain. Without missing a beat, he pivoted to his next victim. He pulverized another orc's skull. His cold-blooded efficiency drove the rest of the pack into a mindless frenzy. Their desperate roars only earned a scoff. An axe whistled toward him in a frantic, reckless swing. He flickered out of existence, reappearing with swirling spheres of pure destructive hellfire dancing in his palms. He unleashed a firestorm, incinerating the orcs in a chorus of agonized screams. His path backward was paved with ash. He'd systematically purged the entire den. Every life extinguished added weight to his growing mountain of loot. As his bag grew heavy, the rest of the crew finally stepped out of the rift's shimmering portal. Returning to where they started, they hauled their massive haul back to civilization to secure the bag. While they sought the city's safety, Dojin was busy solo grinding the rift like a god under the midday sun. He slaughtered a blue croco effortlessly. Drenched in monster blood, he kept his kill streak alive without breaking a sweat. Before the body could even go cold, he carved the heart right out of the reptile's chest. He dropped the massive organ into a jar, sealing it tight to preserve its potent raw power. A few more precise slices yielded 2 rare crystals. His loot bag was becoming a literal gold mine. Spawn camping these blue crocos was a stroke of genius. The drop rates here were absolutely cracked. With the spawns exhausted, Dojin moved on. Meanwhile, in the Brazil Hero Association war room, the government nerds were buzzing. Since the operation kicked off, the command center has been on a 24/7 lockdown, monitoring every move of the joint task force. Suddenly, a high-priority alert flashed across the monitors. The impossible had happened. The Santarem rift zone had completely vanished. The tech experts sat in stunned silence, their eyes glued to the data as the sheer weight of reality finally crashed down on them. The Situation Room erupted into a frenzy of cheers. They scrambled to check the logs and realized only one South Korean squad was in that sector. This specific unit was registered under Cleo Gill's name. But how could a group like that manage to neutralize a high-level rift? It made zero sense, especially since they had radioed in for an emergency tactical retreat just 10 minutes ago. While the big shots at HQ were scratching their heads, our protagonist was right in the thick of a gruesome showdown. He was locked in a savage brawl against a hideous nightmare, the bloodthirsty twin-headed ogre. One glance told Dojin this was no ordinary beast. This monster had undergone a terrifying hyperspeed evolution, gorging itself on a massive surge of concentrated dark mana. The beast slammed its foot down with earth-shattering force, sending a shockwave that nearly blasted Dojin off his feet. Beyond this final monstrosity, the rift core pulsed in the open field, practically begging Dojin to put an end to this long night. Dojin shifted his weight, entering a combat-ready stance as the ogre tried to capitalize on its massive reach advantage. The edge of Dojin's blade began to glow with lethal heat just as the ogre's mountain-sized fist blurred into a devastating haymaker. No matter how microscopic the opening Seo, Dojin is a master of the counterattack, his burning sword ready to strike. He triggered the second form of the Vandian sword style, summoning a wall of fire capable of turning anything to ash. The Grimora Poera sweeping magic erupted in a blinding flash. That two-headed freak stood no chance against what was coming next. A precision-engineered slash tore through the monster's massive shoulder before the beast could even register the movement. A jagged, burning gash ripped across the ogre's torso, forcing a twin-headed scream of pure agony to echo through the trees. In the heat of battle, Dojin finally let loose, a savage grin spreading across his face as he pushed the tempo even harder. He lunged forward like a streak of fire. He was moving way too fast for the beast to track, literally carving the ogre into ribbons. In a final act of desperation, the ogre wound up a punch, packing every bit of its mutated muscle into one last strike. Dojin danced around the blow, with effortless grace soaring into the air, while prepping his most lethal combo yet. A grid of incandescent slashes diced the monster into cubes, the sheer force of the attack leveling the surrounding forest. With no amateur heroes around to hold him back, Dojin finally flexed his true power. The ogre knew right then it was cooked. With 2 heads and 2 brains, the monster felt double the terror. Instinct took over as it tried to scramble away from the carnage. It tried to leap clear of the kill zone, and for a split second, it looked like the beast might actually survive the slaughter. But the sweeping magic was too fast. The blade caught its leg mid-air, slicing through thick hide and bone like a hot wire. It was a flawless amputation. The beast crashed into the dirt, both heads howling in misery, as it struggled to balance on one stump. Dojin's next move was a guaranteed finisher. The Vandian second form is a brutal technique designed for total annihilation. It's built to shred even the most legendary titans into bite-sized pieces. As the giant fell, it didn't just land, it rained meat. Dojin took a slow breath and sheathed his blade. His focus immediately shifted to the glowing eye of the dungeon's rift core. Staring directly into that abyssal energy, he began analyzing its flow. He realized the dark mana density was unnervingly stable. There were 0 fluctuations. That could only mean one thing. This rift core wasn't the source of the recent anomalies. It was a setup. Dark mana was being funneled in from the outside. Someone was doing this on purpose and with malicious intent. Saturating a rift zone with this much energy requires a god-tier level of power. Dojin knew the scope of this threat was massive. Only a being on the level of an undead lord or an imperial lich could pull off such a sinister stunt. If a monster that powerful was truly behind this, humanity would already be kneeling before an army of the walking dead. For now, there were no clear suspects, but Dojin knew that merely closing the rifts wouldn't stop the puppet master. If an external force was pulling the strings, the nightmare was just beginning. Dojin tightened his fist, his knuckles turning white. He delivered a world-ending punch directly into the core. A single impact was all it took to shatter that swirling mass of chaos. Cracks spiderwebbed across the surface before the entire core exploded into shards. Dojin vowed right then to hunt down the culprit. While he prepared for the hunt, the grim reports from the joint expeditions finally landed on the Brazilian Hero Association president's desk. As the president read the full breakdown of the rift zones, a cold shiver ran down his spine. The data was absolutely horrifying. Every page of the report felt like a death sentence. On one front, they had sent an elite 3-nation joint task force. An army of veterans had marched into the gate, yet only a single S-rank hero had made it back to the surface alive. Only one South Korean squad successfully sealed their gate without losing a single soul. HQ is currently flooded with reports from other battlefields. Every other mission ended in disaster, forcing terrified survivors into a frantic, desperate retreat. Despite packing every squad with elite S-rank powerhouses, this opening gambit has turned into a total bloodbath. The sole victory came from Hyun Ju-yeon's unit. Yet the official debriefing suggests something far more mysterious occurred. Calling it their win is a stretch. The president grabbed the San Remo file, his eyes scanning for the truth. The documents claim the gate collapsed only after they left. The math just doesn't add up. This miracle makes zero sense. They need the raw, unedited truth directly from Hyun Ju-yeon's own mouth. Luckily, she's already speeding toward HQ and should be walking through those doors any second now. Barely 60 minutes have ticked by since Ju-yeon's squad emerged from that portal and arrived at command. During that hour, Do-jun solo cleared the first gate effortlessly. Now he's already diving into the next nightmare zone. He realized the dungeon core lay hidden beneath the waves. In a total Giga Chad move, Do-jun dove headfirst into the abyss. Meanwhile, Brazil's Hero Association president was finally learning the shocking truth about the San Remo incident. He struggled to process the intel, finding the whole situation absolutely mind-blowing. Even with Ju-yeon's eyewitness testimony, believing one guy speed-ran a dark mana-infested hellscape seems impossible. Ju-yeon missed the grand finale of Do-jun's solo raid, but she's absolutely certain he handled it alone. He was the one-man army. The president had no choice but to accept this insane reality. He leaked top-secret files to Ju-yeon about the other failed raids. S-rank legends are dropping like flies everywhere. Bluntly, Ju-yeon confessed that she would be another name on that death list without Do-jun's intervention. Without him, she'd be gone. Given the chaos, her report sounds like a fever dream to command. But she dropped crucial intel. This dark mana is buffing monsters to levels that dwarf even S-rank power. Ju-yeon remained stoic. She delivered the facts. Now it's up to the bureaucrats to believe her or die. Adding to the madness, updates just hit that multiple southern gates near San Remo have been wiped out. The president assumed those specific zones were simply lucky enough to avoid the dark mana's corruption. Ju-yeon shut that theory down instantly. She insisted that every single gate is now a high-level death trap. The warning sign, a warped portal color. Currently, that's the only red flag separating a mission from a suicide run. Mr. President immediately ordered an emergency sweep of every rift portal throughout the entire nation of Brazil. As he barked orders, Ju-yeon simply walked out. Her part was finished. While leaving the building, she rang Chairman Nate Wang back in Korea. The veteran leader listened intently to her terrifying battlefield update. She detailed the dark mana threat. Fortunately, Korea hasn't seen any signs of this lethal mutation, at least not yet. Nate Wang is now on high alert. If S-rankers are being slaughtered like sheep by these buffed monsters, the situation is critical. If a true boss-class entity absorbs that wicked energy, the carnage will be unthinkable. It would be a total massacre. They're safe for the moment, but Korea must brace for an apocalypse. While the world spiraled into chaos, Seo Do-jun was chillin', casually taking a swim in the dungeon's waters. In these island-type rifts, the dungeon core is almost always tucked away deep beneath the surface. Humans aren't built for gills. Scarcely any heroes can maintain their peak combat power in a watery grave. Do-jun recalls only one man, New Zealand's Ivan Looper, who can actually pull off S-rank aquatic warfare. Thanks to his rare skill set, Ivan charges a king's ransom to clear wet zones across the globe. His unique oxygen trait allowed him to basically monopolize the entire market for high-difficulty underwater missions. As Do-jun sank deeper into the dark, he felt the heavy pressure of dark mana intensifying. With one final breath, he plunged into the abyss, cutting through the water like a professional predator. Surface-level monsters were just fodder. But once he hit the deep zone, the sunlight was swallowed by shadows. Fueled by that corrupt mana, terrifying predators began to emerge from the darkness, eyeing him like a snack. Leaving the shore far behind, he had to exert control to keep his body steady in the current. He coated himself in a mana shield, neutralizing the crushing water pressure so he could move with lethal agility. The deeper he descended, the more he had to fine-tune his mana barrier against the ocean's heavy grip. Reaching the rift's absolute abyss, Do-jun fine-tuned his mana shroud until he could glide through the crushing depths like a silent phantom. Instantly, a jagged shadow lunged from the gloom, locking onto him with murderous intent. It was an Ericon, a monstrous, oversized seahorse from his nightmares, just as he had predicted. Pulsing with corrupt dark mana, the beast looked feral, but Do-jun simply tightened his fist and hardened his defenses. He flared his aura, turning the pitch-black trench into a blinding battlefield, as a massive energy surge erupted. The Ericon stood no chance. Do-jun tore through it with bare hands, leaving behind a storm of shredded scales and gore. Crimson clouds choked the water, as the iron scent of death summoned a frenzied swarm of bloodthirsty piranha monsters. These bottom feeders descended like a silver cloud, greedily stripping the Ericon's remains to the bone in seconds. While the first pack feasted a second wave, of hungry eyes turned their sights directly on Do-jun. Do-jun smirked, thinking that if Ivan Looper saw this nightmare, he would probably wet his designer swimsuit in terror. As the piranhas breached his kill zone, Do-jun erased them with cold, lethal precision, unfazed by the swirling currents. He dominated the deep-slaying Ericons left and right, and even folding a massive shark with a single gut punch. Planting his feet on the trench floor, he unleashed a barrage of strikes that moved as fast as lightning on land. Fish carcasses piled up, but the growing mountain of bodies only drew more apex predators to his location. Clearing these weaklings was becoming a total drag, so Dojin decided it was time for a tactical reposition. He bolted through the water, but a sudden, chilling sense of dread crawled up his spine as he moved deeper. He had entered a dead zone where even monsters feared to tread, facing a bizarre, one-eyed titan lounging on stone. Dojin recognized that eerie bastard. Instantly, the legendary Acromos, a creature that haunted the deep. A grin touched his lips. Meeting this beast was a stroke of luck since every past legend started by hunting one. In his previous life, every hero who etched their name in history had slain an Acromos while they were still nobodies. For the current Dojin, this was not just a fight, it was a golden ticket he refused to let slip away. By a twist of fate, the heart of this cursed rift was tucked right beneath the Acromos' resting spot. The flattened fish focused its gold and purple eye on him while Dojin braced his feet against the ocean floor. With no natural predators, the Acromos simply creates a subspace void to swallow any threat, whole a terrifying opponent. As Dojin closed the distance, the fabric of reality tore open as a vacuum tried to pull him into nothingness. He fought the crushing pull, knowing one wrong step meant getting deleted before the real fight even started. Narrowly escaping the void, he scoffed and began dancing through the razor-thin gaps in the warped space. His movements were pure liquid, threading the needle to avoid the infinite darkness creeping toward him from all sides. The Acromos tracked him with its singular eerie eye, as Dojin's power spiked to a whole new level. Beating this fish into a pulp would be easy, but a mindless slaughter would destroy the precious subspace he craved. The only way to win was through pure mana suppression, paralyzing the beast while keeping its dimensional power intact. Channeling every drop of his refined mana, Dojin unleashed a wave of force to overpower the expanding void. The blinding radiance of his energy vaporized nearby monsters, instantly leaving the surrounding waters empty and silent. Those poor low-level beasts never even saw it coming as they were erased by the sheer pressure of his aura. Dojin did not give a damn about the collateral. His eyes were locked on the Acromos' desperate counterattack. As he pushed forward, the subspace grew thicker and more stagnant, draining his mana reserves at an alarming rate. With his tank running dry, he had no choice but to start absorbing the toxic dark mana from the rift itself. He threw his gates open, inviting the malevolent energy in, only to purify and blast it out in a deadly cycle. Dojin was redlining his own soul. He felt a warm trickle of blood escape his nose as his body screamed in protest. Hacking up a mouthful of crimson, he realized he might have pushed his vessel a little too far this time. Yet the Acromos just stared him down with that cryptic eye waiting for the perfect moment to finish its prey. Risking it all, Dojin went full throttle, and a moment later the water exploded as he breached the surface. Through sheer bloody-minded will, Dojin dragged the Acromos out of its element and onto solid ground. On land, the predator became the prey as Dojin snatched the infinite void right out of the creature's grasp. The moment the subspace was ripped away, the light faded from the fish's eye as it finally succumbed to death. The beast's carcass sank into the abyss while Dojin lay motionless on the shore, completely spent. Hours ticked by. Before twilight, scavenging birds circled the hunter's unconscious form. He jerked awake with a violent sneeze, coughing up the stale water clogging his lungs. The birds fled in a panic. Dojin's eyes snapped open, every muscle aching from the underwater slaughter. Thankfully, his gear survived. Diving back into that murky darkness would have been a total nightmare. Smirking at his victory, he sat up to test his rewards, channeling raw mana into his arm. He could feel the massive evolution of his energy. His mana reserves had skyrocketed compared to before. Risking it all against that monster was worth the mana alone, but the real prize, his new subspace. This was his biggest win in Brazil so far. No more hauling around a heavy pack and blade. Now he could just dump them in the void, finally free from the burden of his equipment. Dojin stood up with a satisfied stretch. This rift had already paid out in spades. Mission accomplished. With the boss dead, he'd seal this rift and head back to relax. It was a legendary and productive run for a subspace